Chapter 350. Daybreak hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she still put it away and casually placed it on the side of the pillow. Perhaps it was because she had fiercely cried, but at this time, she felt physically and mentally exhausted. Closing her eyes, she quickly fell into dreamland, but her sleep was not stable. Her closed eyelids trembled slightly and her eyelashes were slightly moist. Looking at her, one could not help but feel pity for her. Qing Zhu wrung out a handkerchief and wiped her face. Sitting on the side of her bed, she quietly watched her for a moment. Sighing in her heart, Hongyan's life was full of misfortune. Soon after, a smile appeared on her face. Thinking that in the future, it would not be like this. Wang Fei was the best mistress, generous and benevolent. As long as they did not have any thoughts that they should not have and obediently did what they should do, their lives would not be bad. After daybreak, it gradually calmed down. It was probably because her heart had calmed down and was ready to welcome a new life. Daybreak slept for more than 2 shurchen. 1 shurchen equals 2 hours. After waking up, her spirit looked a lot better and the feeling that she gave people also changed a little. She seemed to not be so indifferent and had some vitality, as if her dead heart had started to beat again. However, it was not strange to have this kind of change. Leaving that kind of place was equivalent to jumping out of the fire pit. She also did not enter the inner residence as a concubine, so she did not have to worry about the chaos of fighting between wives and concubines. Being well behaved, she could always live a comfortable and stable life. Daybreak turned her head and saw that the box beside the pillow was motionless. It could be seen that during the time she was asleep, no one had reached out their hand. Although she did not know the specific amount inside, but with the face value of 10,000 taels per piece, there were at least several 100,000 taels in the box. As the saying goes, wealth moves people's hearts. As a servant of Jin Wang Fu, they could not be moved by so much money. Were they as rich as their mistress and did not even have the slightest curiosity? Definitely not. It could only mean that their temperament was good. Daybreak slowly smiled. It seemed that the pain on her body had lessened a lot. Although it was still painful, her heart felt comfortable. Her action was not deliberately to test anything. Daybreak was also a person who did not care much about money, so she just casually let it go. Then, she unexpectedly got this kind of result. They had stayed in Chuanzhou Fu for a long time. According to the plan, they would leave in the next few days and head to the next Fu city. As for Bai Xiao and Daybreak, they would either stay in Chuanzhou Fu to recuperate or go with them. After all, when Jingwan and the others left, they could also stay on the boat. Taking advantage of the 2 or 3 days left, they could recuperate more. At that time, it was up to them whether they left or not. Naturally, Gong Jiu was still busy making the elixir of youth. From the first batch of medicine, he knew that this prescription was not fake. It was indeed that ancient prescription. Moreover, after carefully studying the medicine in it, he was 100% sure that it would hinder fertility. Moreover, as long as one took 10 pills, it would take at least 10 years of recuperation to conceive a child. Moreover, the damage caused by this medicine could not be seen under normal circumstances. After careful consideration, Gong Jiu made some slight changes to the prescription. Originally, there were 10 pills. 5 pills would take 10 or 20 years of recuperation, and it had to be done properly. In this way, 100 people could save nearly half of the medicinal herbs. It also saved time and effort. Why not? During this period, Li Hongyuan met 2 people. One was Iron Salt Head, and the other was Su Ting. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not, but the 2 of them met together. Iron Salt Head's injuries hadn't healed yet. His body was still as fat as a pig's. However, the Maitreya Buddha's smile on his face had disappeared. Only after seeing Li Hongyuan did the evil aura around his body lessen a little. He, Iron Salt Head, had followed his father to run the business when he was a little over 10 years old. At that time, he was just a small merchant. After suffering enough, he also learned to be obedient. After 34 years, he thought that he had the means and shrewdness. But he did not expect that in the end, he would fall into the hands of a woman. Of course, when he did not know for the time being, this woman naturally referred to Bai Xiao. After that, Li Hongyuan wanted to deal with Iron Salt Head, and was preparing to uproot his power and family. As such, naturally, he would not make a big fuss. After all, Jiangnan was so big. Moreover, Iron Salt Head was said to be the #1 salt merchant in Jiangnan, but the scope of his business was not just Jiangnan. If the power behind him was alerted, those people might escape. Without a doubt, they would also take away a large amount of money. Li Hongyuan did not lack money, but he would not complain about having too much money. After all, if he really sat on the throne, there would be too many places to spend money. Therefore, when Iron Salt Head was brought over, he had not yet become a prisoner. Because Iron Salt Head was carried in, Li Hongyuan did not force him to stand up and salute. Li Hongyuan sat on the main seat, sipping his tea a little absent-mindedly. Then he placed the teacup on the table, making a slight sound. His gaze did not look at Iron Salt Head at all, but fell on the kneeling Su Ting. However, that gaze was like the baptism of the 4 gods. Even if Su Ting lowered her head, she would definitely feel as if there was a blade at her back, and she could not help but tremble. Li Hongyuan supported his chin with one hand. To scheme against this prince, your courage is not small. If there was a bit of luck before, Su Ting would already be trembling like a sieve at this moment. She knew that she wanted to borrow a knife to kill someone, and it was actually a dangerous move. However, she really could not stand Iron Salt Head's torment. The injuries on her body had never healed, and because of her hard bones, she gritted her teeth and endured it again and again, arousing Iron Salt Head's interest. Su Ting really could not stand it anymore, but she also did not have the guts to resist. Towards Iron Salt Head, she feared and hated him even more. She wanted to break away from his control, but also wanted to ruthlessly retaliate. Iron Salt Head had designs on Sister He, but Sister He was someone who served Jin Qin Wang, so Iron Salt Head would not lose his mind. She set her sights on Bai Xiao, who had the same face as Sister He. In any case, Iron Salt Head had never seen Bai Xiao before. Of course, if she wanted to escape, she would not stupidly send herself into Iron Salt Head's hands. In order to cover up Bai Xiao's identity, not only did she take the things that represented her identity, she also fed her a mute medicine that could make people temporarily speechless. Even if she could endure Iron Salt Head's abuse, she also had a way to make Bai Xiao lose her life quickly. Everything had been arranged, but she did not expect that Bai Xiao was a martial arts expert. As long as Bai Xiao came back alive, Su Ting would definitely not be able to escape. Iron Salt Head was still confused and did not understand what Li Hongyuan meant. He looked at Li Hongyuan with puzzled eyes. Li Hongyuan did not pay attention to him, but Mu Gonggong sneered, "The one who hurt you, a commoner, is Wang Fei Nyongyong's personal maid. She was schemed against by the woman beside you and fell into your hands. Wang Fei Nyongyong has always been very protective of the people around her. She was injured like that and almost lost her life. Wang Fei Nyongyong is very angry." Iron Salt had originally thought that he would find the slut who hurt him. If he did not skin her alive, he would not be able to dispel the hatred in his heart. Now, how could he still not understand? Looking at Su Ting, his eyes were as wide as copper bells. He really fell into the hands of a woman, but he missed one. This was the main culprit. His fat body suddenly rolled over, and the pain in his body seemed to have disappeared. He rushed over and clutched Su Ting's neck tightly. "Slut, slut, slut." Su Ting's eyes rolled to the back of her head. She tried her best to pry Iron Salt's hand away. However, the strength of a person who had reached the pinnacle of hatred was no small matter. Su Ting's face turned pale and the strength of her struggle became weaker and weaker. It looked like she was only left with one breath. However, how could Li Hongyuan let her die so easily? With just a look, an Yi came forward and touched Iron Salt Head's arm gently. Iron Salt Head let go of her. Su Ting collapsed to the ground. She took a breath and covered her neck with her hands, coughing violently. The feeling of dying was definitely not good. Su Ting only felt that she had survived a disaster. Give her mute medicine and send her to the pavilion boat. Tell the owner of the boat not to treat her unfairly. Also, she can't leave the pavilion boat without redeeming her. Li Hongyuan's words completely determined Su Ting's future fate. Su Ting, who had not yet recovered, narrowed her eyes. Wang Yi. The pain in her throat made her unable to speak clearly. She couldn't say the rest of her words. Her mouth was gagged and she was dragged out. Li Hongyuan's gaze fell on Iron Salt Head. His gaze was similar to how he looked at Su Ting. Iron Salt Head trembled and hurriedly knelt down. Wang Yi, this commoner really didn't know about this matter. If this commoner knew, even if you gave this commoner 100 guts, this commoner would never dare to covet Wang Ye's woman. Wang Yi, please calm your anger, please calm your anger. Just saying that you didn't know, just saying calm your anger is enough? Li Hongyuan's tone was indifferent, but Iron Salt Head was sweating profusely. He was originally fat, so he sweated a lot. In a short time, his clothes were completely soaked, as if he was fished out of the water. He hurriedly turned his body to the back. The person who followed him, who looked like a housekeeper, hurriedly handed over the box in his arms. Iron Salt Head received it and respectfully raised it above his head, an insignificant gift to apologize to Wang Yi and Wang Fei. An apology gift has been prepared, and you still say that you didn't know? This was clearly picking a bone, but Jin Qin Wang now held Iron Salt Head's life and death, so Iron Salt Head didn't dare to refute a single word. Wrong. This commoner was confused. This is a small profit to show filial respect to Wang Yi. Wang Yi, please kindly accept it. When you return, immediately prepare another gift to apologize to Wang Yi. Wang Yi, please kindly accept it. Li Hongyuan raised his chin. Mu Gonggong understood and took the box. Opening it, he presented it to Li Hongyuan for a look. From the looks of it, there are several million taels in banknotes, and this is still an insignificant gift. Ben Wang is rather curious. What will be the generous gift that you all gave? A mere merchant had more than 20 million taels of wealth. Of course, this was just gold and silver. How could such a person not think of ways to plunder all kinds of rare treasures? This part was really hard to estimate. Therefore, this Iron Salt Head's net worth was really frightening. Wang Yi will not be disappointed. Wang Yi will not be disappointed. Today, he was called by Jin Qin Wang. He thought that there was an answer to his previous visit, so even if his injury wasn't healed, he still forced himself to come. The 5 million taels in banknotes was originally a filial gift to make friends. He also knew that if the first gift was too much, it would only make the other party's appetite grow bigger and bigger. Perhaps in the future, the other party would reach out and ask for money from time to time, becoming more and more accustomed to it. However, he himself also knew that the only capital he held in his hands was money. Other connections, in the eyes of a Wang Yi, were nothing. Therefore, if he wanted to climb this high branch, he had to let the other party see his value. Clenching his teeth, he took out 10 million taels in one go, and the result. But now, the nature was completely different. It was money to buy his life. See the guest out. Iron Salt Head didn't dare to say anything and could only respectfully withdraw. After he went out, he almost fell head first. In his life, Iron Salt Head had never suffered such a big loss. However, after suffering this loss, he didn't have the slightest thought of revenge. When he thought of Su Ting who had harmed him to this extent, he hated her so much that he vomited blood. However, it was impossible to redeem her. Even bringing her out of the pavilion boat for 1 or 2 days was not possible. Now, he couldn't personally deal with her, but he could call someone to do it. Slut, if I don't make you beg for life and death, Lousy wouldn't be called Iron Salt Head. Inside the room, Li Hongyuan's banknotes lacked interest. Squeeze people dry and send them to be salt slaves. So, to Li Hongyuan, this black-hearted and black-bellied person, apologizing would be enough? Wishful thinking. Moreover, he didn't even verbally promise. If it wasn't to save trouble, Iron Salt Head wouldn't even have time to recuperate. And this filial piety became Jingwan's private property. Jingwan felt that ever since she married, ever since she was engaged to a certain person, she had become numb to things like gold, silver, and treasures. Especially on this trip to Jiangnan, not to mention counting money until her hands cramped, looking at these things was like looking at a pile of waste paper. She felt that she had almost lost the concept of money. It was just a number. Jingwan felt that she needed to find something to balance it out. After thinking about it, she got it. In the last feudal dynasty in her previous life, the Empress Dowager, who was at the end of the country and family, spent 40,000 taels of silver a day. She spent 10 million taels of silver on her birthday. In comparison, she only received a little more and didn't squander. It was balanced. And the owner of the pavilion boat, Auntie May, took over Su Ting and said that she would definitely follow the prince's instructions. At this point, Su Ting, who was good at singing and dancing, had unparalleled talent, and was beautiful to a certain extent, not inferior to Daybreak, became the lowest prostitute on the pavilion boat. As long as one could step through the door of the pavilion boat, they could casually ask for her with a bit of money. Throughout the day and night, except for that little bit of rest time, she wouldn't lack all kinds of men by her side. Moreover, Auntie May also forbade her from showing off her talent. Every time she found out, she would be beaten to death. These days would accompany Su Ting until she died. Whether she died on the bed or really couldn't take it anymore and committed suicide. However, Auntie May was a kind person. She gave the only bit of kindness she had to Daybreak. Wanting to die under her hands was not a simple matter. After 2 days, Gong Zhou's ageless pills were all prepared. Li Hongyuan did as he said and directly sent people to deliver it to the Pei family's Chuanzhou residence. Eunuch Mu personally brought a few people and handed the things to the head of the family with a smile. Then, he warmly greeted the Pei family's madam and the few ladies. That Pei family's people didn't dare to be negligent and respectfully answered one by one. "The old lady is awake? That's the best. We can bring the ageless pills back to the Pei family's main residence." As Eunuch Mu said this, he clicked his tongue in wonder. This old lady's life was really tough. Gong Zhou had already told her to prepare for her funeral, but she still stubbornly held on and even woke up. Facing Eunuch Mu, the head of the family broke out in a cold sweat. "I'll have to trouble old mister to take care of those ladies." He seemed to be referring to the boxes containing the ageless pills. TSK, the ageless pills. Although it was harmful, for some people, it was also a great temptation. Goodbye. After sending Eunuch Mu off, the head of the family stood in place for a long time. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and personally looked at the boxes and had people move them to the main courtyard. When his wife saw these things and knew what they were, she couldn't help but tremble. "Master, are these really going to be sent back to the main residence?" "Of course, but it has nothing to do with us. Go and take out 6 bottles now and send them to the 6 ladies." The old lady was startled. Her lips wriggled, but in the end, she didn't say anything. It wasn't like she hadn't done this kind of immoral thing before. She had even killed an unborn child, not to mention that she hadn't killed anyone yet. Moreover, she was afraid that she had no choice but to do this. If she didn't do it, the ageless pills might be used on her own descendants. Outsiders could never be more important than family. The old lady led a group of maidservants and women to the small courtyard where the Pei family's ladies were locked up. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653983. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 351. These days, they had been clamoring for the main character. Now that they finally saw her, each and every one of them harshly threatened her. Unfortunately, the old woman was too lazy to pay attention to them. She directly had them captured and forced down all the immortal pills. This immortal pill generally needed to be taken at least once every 3 days. At one time, it was 5 pills with increased efficacy. The side effects were even worse than before. As for whether there would be any side effects other than hindering children, Gong Jiu expressed that he also didn't know. After all, he didn't find anyone to test the efficacy of the pill. Things that were forced down people's throats, no one would think that it was a good thing. Old witch, what did you give us to eat? As they questioned, they reached out to scratch their necks, wanting to spit out the thing. The old woman was quite indifferent towards these people from the main family. People from prestigious families all thought highly of themselves and considered everyone beneath them. As the saying goes, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. The virtue of these little ones was enough to see what the previous generation was like. It was no wonder that it caused the family to fall to such a state today. Not to mention that there was no family power in the imperial court. Even if there was, such insolence would only bring disaster to the family. What did you eat? Ah, the immortal pill that Jin Qin Wang sent over, the old woman smiled. A beauty-preserving sacred product, ah. How many people want it but can't even see it? You all ate 5 of them at once. You should be rejoicing. Seeing the ghastly appearance of these girls from the main family, the old woman's original sense of guilt completely disappeared. If she had to say, Jin Qin Wang was really benevolent. There were many ways to sterilize a woman. Why bother to make such a beauty-preserving good thing? She was already old and wouldn't drool over this thing. However, her married daughter and daughter-in-law should like it very much. In any case, they had already reached the age of old pearls and their children were already more or less born. To be able to become beautiful, who wouldn't want it? Unfortunately, it was just a thought. She didn't have the courage to touch this batch of pills. Otherwise, she wouldn't even know how she died. At this moment, each of them became pale. They no longer pretended to scratch their necks. Instead, they no longer cared about their bearing and reached into their mouths to scratch their throats. Unfortunately, it was all in vain. That fingernail-sized pill not only tasted good, it also melted in their mouths. How could he really dare? How could he really dare? We are from the main family of the Pei family. The Pei family is the richest family in Jiangnan. The richest family, do you understand? Wasn't he afraid of offending the Pei family? Who gave him the guts? Who gave him the guts? Ah! The old lady stood at the side as if she was watching a joke. They didn't live up to their name. So what if they were the #1 clan? Who gave Jin Qin Wang the guts? Of course, it was his birth. Moreover, what he gave was a beauty supplement, and it was a prescription from the Pei family. As long as he did not mention the side effects of this medicine, who could criticize him? Speaking of side effects, he had to talk about why the Pei family gave him this prescription. If he revealed it, not only could he push it away cleanly, but he could also openly cause trouble for the Pei family. The old madam suddenly realized the reason why Jin Qin Wang used the immortal Dan instead of other extinct medicines. It was indeed brilliant. What's the use of shouting at me? If you have the guts to shout at Jin Qin Wang, you might as well see if he has the guts to directly dispose of you. Old witch, you dare to help outsiders against your own people? Grandfather will not let you off. Just you wait, just you wait. The old woman looked at them coldly. This was exactly what she wanted. She flicked her sleeves and left. Old witch, stop for me, she shouted fiercely, but this was not her own territory. As the host, when she became ruthless, could you, a mere guest, have the advantage? After leaving this side, she looked at the closed door on the other side. Ever since Pei Yue-ing was violently beaten, she had not left that room. And those who had seen her, other than the doctor, were only the 2 servant girls who served by her side. It must be said that the 2 servant girls had also been dealt with very miserably. There was no other way. Who told their master to be favored, they also followed suit. A few days ago, the old madam did not pay attention to her at all. Now, she directly let someone knock on the door. The door was only opened a crack when it was rudely pushed back. If the servant girl who opened the door did not retreat quickly, she was afraid that she would have been directly knocked to the ground. Compared to the previous people who did not know life from death, they only had panic in their eyes. Where is your miss? The servant girl stammered and could not say anything. The old madam was also impatient and directly sent someone to find her. The room was so big that it did not take much effort. However, this move did not find her. The old madam sneered. Did they really think that she was too ashamed to see people and hid in the room and did not go out? How long has your master been out? Old madam. Shut up, I am just a commoner with no rank and no grade. I am not worthy of this title. Only people in the main house dare to break the rules. Just say it, how long has your master been out? Don't talk nonsense. Just went out not long ago. This servant girl was not arrogant at all now. Come, go and find the miss of the 4th generation of our main house. She is the role model of the Miss Pei. She cannot lose face for the Pei family. The old madam did not think that Pei Yu-ing could leave this house. Because of the recent events, she gave a death order. The front door, back door, side door, and corner door of the house were all very strictly controlled. If anyone received benefits and secretly let a master out, if they were caught by her, it would not be as simple as being sold. Sure enough, Pei Yu-ing was still looking for an opportunity to go out. Unfortunately, she was not able to do so. She was still secretly hating that an ordinary house was so strictly guarded. She thought that there was some treasure in this broken house and did not know that this was the influence of Jin Qin-wang. Pei Xiuying was not familiar with this house. When the servants here deliberately wanted to find her, it was simply a matter of time before they caught her. Pei Yu-ing was forcibly pulled back, but she firmly protected the headscarf on her head. Her face and body were fine, but her head— The old madam glanced at her and declined to comment. Miss, it is best to know your place. Don't think that you can achieve your goal after leaving this house. Jin Qin-wang's people are guarding outside. Because of your ambition and self-righteousness, you have harmed the Pei family to this extent. Do you really want the Pei family to be exterminated before you are satisfied? Pei Yu-ing pursed her lips and did not speak. But whether it was the clenched fists or the fluctuating emotions in her eyes, it all showed that her mood was not calm. Based on what was the basis of putting all the blame on her head? She did not wash away the disgust of great-grandmother and sacrificed her reputation. Was everything she did for herself? Who could she find to reason with for everything that she was suffering now? It was obvious that everyone hurt her, betrayed her, schemed against her, but now they wanted her to bear the burden. Don't even think about it. You were heartless first, so don't blame her for being unjust. Even if she died, she would also pull a group of people down with her. Tang Zhu, what is the matter? Pei Yu-ing restrained all the emotions in her eyes and asked faintly, as if nothing had happened. Astonishment flashed through the old madam's eyes. With this temperament, it was no wonder that the clan head would make such a decision. However, to let the chess piece know that her original position was actually a shield, she would only be reduced to an abandoned chess piece in the end. It was okay if she was hit until she could not recover from the setback, but the one in front of her was afraid that it was not the case. She might even bite back. But this had nothing to do with them. Even if she was to be angered, it would depend on whether she really had the ability to deal with them after destroying the main family. The old madam let someone give her the porcelain bottle. Pei Yu-ing opened the porcelain bottle and poured out the pills inside. Although there was a difference in size, but just based on the smell, she could distinguish what it was. It's not Old Dan. I have already eaten it. Tang Zhu does not need to worry that I am acting in front of Jin Qin-wang. However, for me, it is purely a beauty-preserving sacred product. I heard that it is difficult to make and the herbs used are expensive. This kind of good thing, there is no reason not to eat it. Then she naturally remembered Jin Qin-wang's words that day and unhesitatingly ate all the pills one by one. The old madam was very clear that this kind of woman would be very frightening. Tomorrow, I will send you and aunt back to the main residence. The ageless Dan has been sent. It is indeed time to go back. Thus, I will trouble Tang Zhu. At this time, Pei Yu-ing looked very normal, but the old madam felt that her insides were full of darkness and there was a hidden poisonous snake. Moreover, it was the kind that harbored hatred and could choose to devour people at any time. She did not say anything and only wanted to leave quickly. respectfully sending Tang Zhu off. Pei Yu-ing bowed gracefully. Soon, there was only Pei Yu-ing and her 2 servant girls left in the room. The servant girls shrunk back. They also felt that the current master was extremely frightening because this reaction was simply not normal. Although the Pei clan head's wife would occasionally wake up, but this situation was not optimistic. There was a possibility of her dying at any time. If she could hold on until she returned to the main residence and then die, it was not bad. She simply packed up and the people of Li Hongyuan would not stop her. It was worth mentioning that the Pei clan head did not receive any news from Chuan Zhou for a long time. His heart was faintly uneasy and sent someone to Chuan Zhou. However, that person was also considered smart. After sensing that something was wrong, he did not go near the Pei clan residence and immediately rushed back. When the Pei clan head received the news, the uneasiness in his heart became more and more obvious. He always felt that something big was going to happen. After hesitating for a while, he decided to personally go to Chuan Zhou. Then, when he approached Chuan Zhou, he met the people of Pei clan who were returning. Just simply understanding the situation, the Pei clan head who could laugh at any time had his face completely sunk. It was unprecedentedly serious. His 5 fingers could not stop digging into his palm. Things were completely out of control. Perhaps he had taken some things for granted, but he did not think that this was all his fault. Although he sensed that there was something wrong with Pei Yu-ing, but this was not the time to persuade her. This great-granddaughter's conduct and conduct were all taught by him. Jin Qinhuang's matter was out of expectation because he did not understand enough. As for Pei Yu-ing, the Pei clan head really did not think that she could turn over any big waves. Later on, he would pacify and appease her. The most urgent matter was those famous scholars of Pei clan. They must not be destroyed by Li Hongyuan. Once they were destroyed, Pei clan would really have no chance to make a comeback. The Pei clan head also understood that because Jin Qinhuang deliberately blocked the news, it was very likely that the time he received the news was already late. But he could not sit and wait for death. He wrote a letter and sent it out with the fastest speed. At the same time, he also sent a letter to each family's in-laws. Inside, he expressed all kinds of concern and mentioned some people in their clan. In essence, it was the same trick that the Pei clan head used to threaten Min clan. It was just that he did not make it clear. However, no one was stupid. How could they not see the threat in it? When those people received the letter, their faces were all ashen. They probably did not think that the Pei clan head would be so despicable and shameless. However, because the matter came so suddenly, they also had doubts in their hearts. What happened that made this old thing Pei suddenly release something that could be used against their clan? It was obvious that there was something unusual. After that, when the people of Pei clan's reputation were met with mishaps one after another, they finally reacted. Someone wanted to deal with Pei clan. Moreover, they had found the foundation and used all their strength to chop it down. It made people only feel fear and trepidation. Whether or not to help Pei clan became a big problem. If they helped, they would offend the person who wanted to deal with Pei clan. Who knew if they would become the next target? If they did not help, they would be held by this old thing Pei and could be dragged down by him at any time. Of course, these were all for later. Let's not talk about it for now. The Pei clan head wrote the letter and ordered them to return to Pei County. Other than that, he did not say a word. He did not even look at his seriously ill wife. He only closed his eyes and rested, thinking about what to do next. At the same time, Jingwan and the rest also packed their luggage and prepared to leave Chuanzhou Prefecture and head to the next prefecture city. The accompanying officials naturally had to stay and continue to work hard until the new officials were in place. It had to be said that when Jin Qinhuang left, the entire Chuanzhou Prefecture city, from the top officials to the bottom of the commoners, did not let out a sigh of relief. There were even people who secretly clapped their hands in celebration. For the commoners, punishing the corrupt officials was something to be happy about. However, if the turmoil was too big, it would only make people involuntarily panic. Therefore, it was better to leave. Jiangnan had 4 prefectures and 28 prefectures. Li Hongyuan was prepared to go to every prefecture city. However, because the matter had been dealt with so far, they could follow the same pattern in the prefectures later. If there was a special situation, they would deal with it specially. This was the so-called killing the chicken to warn the monkey. The living king of hell was too ruthless. He did not show mercy and was not afraid of offending people. Naturally, no one dared to stroke the tiger's whiskers at this time. As long as Jin Qinhuang was in Jiangnan, all the officials had to behave themselves with their tails between their legs, including the neighboring prefectures. At this time, they were all very careful. Although they had to continue with their work, they were also very idle. Now, they were really focused on sightseeing. Sitting on the boat, Jingwan leaned on the windowsill, enjoying the breeze. It was incomparably comfortable. Bai Xiao and Daybreak did not hesitate to choose to follow. If they stayed in Quanzhou Prefecture, according to Jingwan's temperament, she would definitely leave at least 2 close people to take care of them. Jingwan did not have many people by her side. If they went together, she could casually take a little time to take care of them. At other times, it would not affect serving Jingwan. In Jingwan's view, this was also the best. After all, Gong Zhou would definitely follow. With Gong Zhou looking at them from time to time, naturally, she would be more assured. After Bai Xiao's wound was stitched up, it recovered quickly. After sleeping in bed for a few days, she slowly got out of bed and walked. Gong Zhou paid attention to her injury at all times, preparing to perfect this method and sort it out. For the treatment of external injuries, this would become a very important method. For the average person, it was hard to say. After all, there was a saying that the body, hair, and skin are given to the parents, do not dare to damage it. However, on the battlefield, it was different. This may save more people's lives. As for Daybreak, because they were all superficial wounds, they had basically scabbed over. However, there were too many parts of his body that were densely packed together. If he moved, the scabbed areas would be in pain. If he wanted to move freely, he would still need some time. Her recovery was good, and her mentality seemed to be fine. Jingwan was naturally relieved. Perhaps in consideration of their situation, they still used the waterway to go to the prefectural city, and not the prefectural city closest to Quanzhou Prefecture. Seeing this, Bai Xiao and Daybreak were moved. They did not say anything, but focused more on recuperating. They hoped that they could recover soon and serve Jingwan better. Li Hongyuan naturally understood Jingwan's intention. Anyway, their return journey was uncertain, so it did not matter if they took a detour. However, when Li Hongyuan occasionally saw Bai Xiao and Daybreak, who came out for a little exercise, he looked as if he was looking at dead people. How could they distract his wife? If it were not for the fact that Jingwan would be angry, he would definitely kill them directly. This was the first time that Daybreak encountered such a situation, and her legs almost went weak. Bai Xiao was fine, and she was used to this kind of thing. Therefore, after Li Hongyuan left, she just calmly patted Daybreak's arm and said, "It's okay. His Highness values the princess too much, and he will not allow the princess to look at others. However, as long as we serve the princess well, the prince will at most be cold. The princess is the most important one, and we just need to avoid him." https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653988. HTML. Please click here to report, no registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com Mobile Edition website: bicken.com. Chapter 352. Therefore, in the eyes of these maids, the noble Prince Jin was a paper tiger to some extent. He looked fierce, but in fact, he had no deterrent power. Even the King of Hell silently shed tears of sympathy for him. Jingwan's following daily routine was basically like this. She followed Li Hongyuan from one prefectural city to another. After settling down, she rested for a night and then began to receive the wives of officials. To put it bluntly, she began to receive gifts. Because she received too many gifts, she didn't even look at them in the end. When she had accumulated enough, she sealed them and sent them back to the capital to be presented directly to Lu Chengdi. Of course, because the matter in Jiangnan was not over yet, in order to avoid alerting the enemy and causing some people in the capital to collude with Jiangnan and reduce Jingwan's income, she only presented a list for the time being so that Lu Chengdi would have an idea of who to settle the accounts with and how much would fall into his pocket in the end. As for the gold and silver in the treasury, Li Hongyuan was kind enough to keep some. The rest was all sent to the capital to fill the national treasury. This situation lasted for about 2 days. After that, it was time to go out. Of course, this was only if there were places worth visiting in and out of the capital. After these 2 days, she collected the gifts and cleaned up the treasury. Then she clapped her hands and left confidently. Those who hadn't sent gifts would suffer because of this. Haha, it had nothing to do with Jingwan. Anyway, she wasn't the one who was anxious. Whether or not they sent gifts had nothing to do with whether they would be settled or not. On the contrary, the more gifts they sent, the more likely they would be settled. However, the more indifferent Jingwan appeared, the more anxious some people became. They even became more and more obvious. In the end, on the second day after they settled down, there were people scrambling to be the first to come to their door. One gift was more valuable than the other. Little did they know that after they left, some people's faces became colder and colder. When his wife was unhappy, Li Hongyuan naturally had to coax her. Every time he coaxed her, he would write down a debt for some people. This account book was getting thicker and thicker. The truly magnificent mountains and rivers were usually not near the prefectural city. After Bai Xiao and Daybreak were able to move freely, Li Hongyuan began to take a detour. The prefectural city could go to hell. Since his wife was unhappy, he naturally did not hesitate to create psychological pressure for them. Jingwan wondered if this was a good idea. And Bai Xiao, Li Hongyuan stroked Jingwan's hair. Wan, I can tolerate you infinitely, but it doesn't mean that I have to continue tolerating you because of other people. Just because of 2 maidservants, I deliberately changed the schedule and even delayed the time. Because of you, I didn't care about it. But now, when the master goes out to play, he has to worry about whether the servants have recovered from their injuries. Is this appropriate? Also, don't say that Bai Xiao was schemed against because of me. As a servant, it's natural for her to die for her master. You're soft-hearted and kind, especially to the people around you. Look, which maidservant can be as carefree and happy as the ones around you? The way to manage your subordinates also needs to know when to relax. Blindly being kind will only make them more arrogant. There are even some who can't see their own status clearly and think that they are on the same level as their master. Now, because of me, you're receiving large amounts of money and gifts. Are you sure that they don't have any thoughts in their hearts? Are you sure that they won't rely on your support in the future, or even use your name to wantonly amass wealth outside? When the day comes, I'll replace all the people around you who have too much affection for you. At that time, you won't be angry with me. Jingwan raised her head and stared at him blankly for a moment. Then she reached out and hugged him, burying her face in his chest. A moment later, a muffled voice came, I know. I'll listen to your arrangements for the following itinerary. In the end, it was because she had lived in a completely different civilized society for more than 20 years. Her character could be said to have been molded at that time. If she completely denied forgetting, then she was actually denying forgetting herself. That kind of extremely strict and clear class concept, no matter how hard she tried, could not completely integrate with the current situation. Not to mention her close relatives, if the people close to her had bad conduct or did something wrong, she would not be merciful. However, if they knew their place and served her wholeheartedly, it was inevitable that she would be more considerate and take care of them a little more. Human nature, this kind of thing, was really hard to say. For example, Bai Xiao now believed that as long as she served Jingwan well, Wang Ye wouldn't do anything to them. In the future, would she think that if she made a mistake and had Wang Fei's protection, Wang Ye still wouldn't have any thoughts? If a small mistake was forgiven, her courage would grow bigger and bigger. It was possible that she would make a big mistake that would implicate Jin Qin Wang. At that time, it would be too late to save her. Don't say that the mistakes made by the servants had nothing to do with the master. In fact, the mistakes of the servants, the master had to pay the bill even more. How many people had played themselves into this because of not strict enough? The several head maidservants around her were indeed important people to her. But, in comparison, could they be more important than Li Hongyuan? Could they be more important than Luo family's relatives? Although some things only existed as a possibility, there wasn't even a spearhead right now. This was the so-called prevention was better than cure. After thinking through this, Jingwan also knew what to do in the future. As for going on a scenic tour, would it have any impact on the officials in Jiangnan? Speaking of which, whether they were good or bad, it really had nothing to do with her. She really didn't do anything wrong and wouldn't be afraid because of their pressure. Li Hongyuan gently stroked Jingwan's back. It's just talk, it's far from that level. Even if that day really comes, there's still me. Jingwan, with a bit of attachment that she herself didn't realize, rubbed against Li Hongyuan's arms. Li Hongyuan's eyes narrowed, expressing that he was very satisfied with the current result. Therefore, no matter how dignified his words were, in essence, he was just jealous. Because it wasn't easy to deal with people, he could only use roundabout tactics. Those reasons that he said, in his eyes, simply didn't take them seriously. If someone really did that, he naturally had a way to remove himself from Wan. If he couldn't remove himself, then he would let those who wanted to punish them, and those who could punish them, shut up. If they didn't shut up, then they would completely shut up. Our living king of hell, in order to make Yama Wang Fei's heart and eyes be wholeheartedly devoted to him, could be said to be painstaking and scheming. For serious matters, he wouldn't necessarily put in so much effort. On the surface, Jingwan had Li Hongyuan under control, but in reality, if Li Hongyuan wanted to, it was not impossible for him to slowly clean up the people around Jingwan secretly without arousing Jingwan's suspicion. When his wife threw herself into his arms, of course, Li Hongyuan was not Lu Shahui. The hand that gently stroked Jingwan's back gradually changed. Jingwan herself might not be aware of the sensitive spots on her body, but Li Hongyuan was very clear. It was too easy for him to make Jingwan fall in love with him. Jingwan naturally noticed when Li Hongyuan was restless, but she didn't resist. As for the fact that it was daytime now, she had been with Li Hongyuan for a long time, so the daytime was nothing. She had played many tricks. In the beginning, she was immature and sensitive. In the past few months, she gradually blossomed fully, and bloomed under Li Hongyuan's hands. As a result, Li Hongyuan controlled it very well. As a result, Jingwan basically wouldn't reject him unless it was a special situation. After rejecting him, she would suffer for a long time. Besides, Li Hongyuan basically wouldn't give her a chance to reject him. He was already burning with passion, but he still endured and waited for his wife to take the initiative. This kind of fun should be left for when he was fully prepared. Although only the two of them were in the inner room, Nanny Gong, who was outside, heard clearly. Even Sister Hei, who was waiting by the side, also heard intermittently. Nanny Gong didn't have any reaction, but Sister Hei was a little flustered. They seemed to have implicated the princess. If this caused a gap between the princess and the prince, it would be difficult to absolve themselves from the blame. Nanny Gong looked at her and saw Sister Hei's reaction, but she didn't say anything. However, although the prince had ulterior motives, perhaps they should still warn him, especially with the addition of morning light. Although they didn't find anything unusual on the surface, there were still some doubts in some places. Therefore, some rules had to be reiterated. The princess was such a kind master. If there were still people with ulterior motives and were ungrateful, the prince didn't need to do anything. She could dispose of them secretly. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Qing Zhu, who was beside her, only vaguely heard the conversation between the prince and the princess, but she didn't know the details. Now that she saw Sister Hei's abnormal expression, she asked, "I'm fine," Sister Hei said. In her heart, she had already decided to talk to her sister privately. The management of the maidservants had never been within the scope of Nanny Gong's responsibility. That was Jingwan's wet nurse's job. Nanny Gong turned around and mentioned it. Sister, if you didn't mention it, I also had this intention. After all, there are new people, and the rules have to be taught. Anyway, Morning Light's injuries have all healed, and it will only take a day or two. Since Sister has mentioned it now, then I will gather them together tonight and teach them the rules. Jingwan's wet nurse said. Nanny Gong nodded and didn't say more. There were some things that didn't need to be done too much. Jingwan and Li Hongyuan didn't appear until dinner time. Li Hongyuan didn't seem to be abnormal. Jingwan's black hair was loosely tied behind her head. Her skin was very good to begin with, and now it was white with a hint of red. At the corner of her eyes, the trace of spring that hadn't completely disappeared was more obvious. It looked exceptionally attractive, and the maidservants were too embarrassed to look at her directly. Perhaps because he was full, Li Hongyuan was in a good mood. However, his eyes were basically on Jingwan. In fact, he wanted to hold Jingwan in his arms and rub. However, he still cared about her dignity in front of the servants. He glanced at the reaction of the others and thought, Wan like this can only be touched by him, and only he can get close to her. And the men outside can't even think about seeing her like this. There was something strange about the maidservants, but Jingwan was a little lazy at the moment and didn't have the energy to pay attention to it. After dinner, Jingwan didn't feel sleepy, so she went to do painting for 2 hours. Li Hongyuan accompanied her the whole time. In fact, Jingwan focused on painting, and he focused on watching Jingwan. Then she had a good night's sleep. When she woke up the next day, she was 100 times more energetic. Today they were going to climb the famous mountains and tread the strange peaks. According to the estimation, it would take at least 2 days. For the sake of the scenery, they wouldn't be in a hurry. Therefore, they would spend at least 3 days and 2 nights on the mountain. Although Bai Xiao looked fine now, she also knew that it was not suitable for climbing. If there was an accident, it would be troublesome and a burden. Your Highness, I haven't recovered from my injury. I can't serve you by your side. Please forgive me, Your Highness. It's not a matter of guilt. Your health is important. It's not too late to wait until your injury is fully recovered. Black Sister wanted to stay, but she also knew that it was impossible. When the princess went out, at least one of her sister and her would follow. Your Highness, I rarely go out in the past. I don't have enough strength. I would like to ask to stay and accompany Bai Xiao. Please allow me. Daybreak said. That's fine. I'll ask the prince to leave a few more guards. If you are bored in the next 2 or 3 days, you can go out for a walk. Thank you, Your Highness. After the arrangements were made, the group of people set off in a mighty manner. Li Suyen was sent out to do errands again. Yu Zhongqing and Master Hua Can were both there. In this way, someone seemed to be more miserable. Looking at the beautiful mountains and rivers, the plank road of the stairway to heaven, Jingwan suddenly missed the camera. Such a scenery, unless a painting master stayed for a long time, absolutely no one could stay in a short time. However, since it was a tour, it was naturally important to have a state of mind to experience the natural scenery. After experiencing that feeling, there was no need to pay too much attention to other things. Perhaps it could leave a deep impression in one's heart and leave it on the painting scroll later. Because they were not in a hurry and just strolled up the mountain, the strength of the maids was completely enough to support them. However, at some point, Jingwan began to act shamelessly. Li Hongyuan smiled faintly. In front of so many people, it was rare that Wan was willing to be close to him. He did not even need to give any hint. Without saying anything, he half squatted down. Jingwan smiled and pounced on him, hugging his neck. Li Hongyuan's hand supported her buttocks. He was still moving up step by step at a steady pace, as if there was no one else on top of him. Although the weather was still hot, the higher the mountain, the cooler it would be. Jingwan did not know the specific altitude of this mountain because it did not coincide with the geography of her previous life. This made Jingwan suspicious of the idea that it was a parallel universe of her previous life. However, there was no point in pursuing these questions because there was no answer at all. She just did not know if she would see snow at the top of the mountain. She turned back to ask Sir Darren. Sir Darren was a little ashamed this time. When they first came to this area, for some reason, they did not reach the top. But from this official's experience, there is a high chance that there will be snow. Jingwan nodded to show that she understood and did not make things difficult for Sir Darren. They camped halfway up the mountain for a night. Because they were well prepared, they still had a comfortable time. Because Jingwan was prepared to go to the top of the mountain to see the sunrise on the morning of the third day, they slowed down again on the second day and expanded the range of their stroll halfway up the mountain. At this time, they could see the clouds and fog at the edge of the cliff, which was definitely a great enjoyment. In the end, they camped at a location about half an hour away from the top of the mountain. At this time, they could clearly feel the coldness. Jingwan nestled in Li Hongyuan's arms and slept very comfortably. The next day, she woke up early and simply washed up. You don't have to follow this kind of poetic scene. Li Hongyuan naturally only wanted to enjoy it with his wife alone. In reality, when the red sun rose, the snow at the top of the mountain was covered with a layer of red with a hint of gold. The churning sea of clouds was even more dyed with deep and shallow golden red. The beautiful scene at that moment was so beautiful that it was enough to make people forget everything around them. Although this was not the first time they had seen the sunrise after coming to Jiangnan, the scenery before was still lacking compared to the one in front of them. So beautiful. Jingwan whispered softly. Li Hongyuan turned his head to look at her and reached out to touch her slightly cold cheek. He felt from the bottom of his heart that no matter how beautiful the scenery was, it could not be more beautiful than the person in front of him. Li Hongyuan had never thought that there would be a day like this. It was beautiful and tranquil, and he wanted it to last forever. The sun gradually rose. Jingwan seemed to have finished feeling emotional. She took Li Hongyuan's hand and said, "I'm done looking. Let's go, let's go. Let's go down the mountain." Li Hongyuan's eyes flashed with helplessness. His little sweetheart actually had times when she ruined the atmosphere. They did not rush down the mountain. It was much faster than going up the mountain. They returned to their temporary residence when night fell. Climbing the mountain was also a tiring thing. That night, they slept very soundly. Next, Shanbei County, Yangzhou Prefecture, and Pei County seem to be in this territory. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653992. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com Mobile Edition. Chapter 353. Li Hongyuan was a man of action, and Jingwan was not one to drag her feet. Once they had decided on their destination, they turned around and started moving. Pei County was very close to Quanzhou Prefecture, but Jingwan and the rest had taken a big detour. However, they were not in a hurry. On the contrary, there were some things that needed time to ferment, so the current situation was just right. On the way to Pei County, they were neither high-profile nor low-key. Other than the fact that they did not have anything that could clearly identify them, the entire entourage was low-key and luxurious. There were less than 50 guards and they were dressed in ordinary clothes, but they faintly emitted a murderous aura. In short, outsiders would know that this entourage was not ordinary and should not be easily provoked. In the carriage, Jingwan's servants, including Baishao and Daybreak, were all present. Daybreak originally wanted to refuse. After all, her reputation was too great. She even knew a few young masters from the Pei family. If she coincidentally bumped into someone she knew at this time, it would be too awkward. Under normal circumstances, no one would ask her anything. However, she had to be prepared for any eventualities. Furthermore, even if no one asked, they would only think that Jean Qin Wang had taken in a brothel prostitute. Even if she said that she was the Wang Fei's servant girl, in these people's eyes, it was probably just a cover-up. Even though it was not the case, Daybreak did not want to damage Li Hongyuan's reputation. After all, this kind of thing could easily cause a rift between husband and wife. Then obediently stay in the carriage. Li Hongyuan was clearly a little impatient as he threw out this sentence. Right now, Li Hongyuan didn't want to have anything to do with irrelevant women. Even if it was just an act, even if it was just a rumor, it didn't matter how troublesome the other matters were. In this aspect, he would most likely be very annoyed. Therefore, his gaze towards Daybreak became even more unfriendly. Daybreak basically knew that Wang Yi was very possessive and did not like the people who served the Wang Fei, especially her, this troublemaker. Therefore, she sincerely avoided Li Hongyuan. Even if she accidentally bumped into him, she would bow and never raise her head to reduce her presence as much as possible. Even so, she would still bump into the muzzle of the gun. Daybreak only agreed and didn't feel wronged. But sometimes, they felt that if Princess Consort didn't need someone to serve her, they probably wouldn't be able to get close to her. The reason why Jing Wan brought Daybreak along was because she didn't want her to think too much. Although she had taken her in, she had also ostracized her. But in reality, once Daybreak's previous identity was known by others, she would definitely be criticized. But there was nothing she could do about it. She had been reduced to a lowly 9 classes, and the general background was not tolerant of them. Jing Wan didn't object to Li Hongyuan's decision. It had to be said that the Pei family was not doing well recently. There were problems in all aspects one after another. Not only were there problems with the people, but there were also various businesses. How could the businesses be small in order to maintain the operations of such a large family? As expected, the Pei family received the news too late. Although he sent the letter out as quickly as possible, the famous scholars of the Pei family could not prevent it in time even if nothing happened. And Li Hongyuan's subordinates were also capable of doing things. It was as if a disciple of a great scholar was weeping bitterly in the heavy rain, saying that although his teacher appeared to be upright and elegant, he was actually a beast and was worse than a beast. While he was not at home, he went to his house. His family treated him warmly, but he actually drugged him, humiliated his wife and daughter, and strangled his son to death. That was his teacher whom he respected like a father, but he did such a heinous thing. Under normal circumstances, ordinary people might not believe it, because no matter how they heard it, it was quite ridiculous. However, that man was indeed the disciple of the great scholar of the Pei family. Many people knew that the teacher-student relationship was quite good, and that something had indeed happened to his family. Speaking of which, if it wasn't true, probably no man would fabricate such a thing, right? And the Yaman's arrest seemed to confirm this point. Such a famous person, especially one who was highly respected by scholars, would cause a commotion if something happened to one of them. However, it was not long before a few other famous scholars were exposed one after another. It aroused public indignation and was the most shameful kind. Ordinary people were only interested in the recent news, but among the scholars, it was like a tsunami, an earthquake, a volcano eruption. Many people did not believe it and thought that it must be a trap set by someone, especially when they found out that these people all had the surname Pei. It was obvious that someone was targeting the Pei family. Therefore, even if it was such a scheme, one could not underestimate these people. They had students all over the world, which meant that they might be loyal to the world. They respected and revered their master, and even saw him as a god. Once they recognized him, they would become crazy and paranoid. Then, one should never underestimate the ability of these scholars to stir up trouble. Therefore, in a short period of time, many people wrote in to ask for permission. It seemed that they were still relatively rational for the time being. However, did Li Hongyuan not expect this situation? How could it be? Therefore, the backup plan came. Regarding the Pei family, one thing after another, in some places in Jiangnan, popped up one after another at the same time like bamboo shoots after a rain. Of course, there were some truths and some lies. Many of these were just things that the Pei family had done and were placed on the head of the entire Pei family. The noble and virtuous Pei family, who put aside fame and fortune, constantly thought about returning to the court and releasing another list. On it were densely packed disciples of great scholars. Perhaps some of their families had close connections with the court. This list all hinted that the famous scholars of the Pei family had deliberately chosen these disciples to pave the way for the Pei family. In reality, more than half of the people on the list were officials. 1 or 2, 10 or 8, perhaps it was a coincidence, but what about tens or hundreds? Even some people who originally believed that their teacher was definitely not that kind of person, especially those old foxes in the officialdom, began to suspect that when they or their family members went to him to become his disciple, they were given all kinds of tests and difficulties. In the end, when they finally became his disciple, when they were wild with joy, did their so-called teacher laugh at them and call them fools? Was all of this set up? Once someone began to speculate, naturally, more people would think in this direction. If they were willing, even if they had to give up a lot, it would be worth it. But if they were cheated, then they would burn with anger and want to tear the person who cheated them into pieces. The people who wrote in to ask for permission became fewer and fewer. The people who secretly wanted to get their master out of prison became fewer and fewer. And those in-laws who were threatened by Pei clan head naturally knew the reason why Pei clan head suddenly went crazy and threatened them. They had been eyeing Pei clan covetously for a long time. When Pei clan suffered a calamity, they simply clapped their hands in celebration because they could divide Pei clan. But they didn't expect that old Pei had such a deadly thing in his hands. At first, they had no choice but to help, but now they all fell silent. Until the current Jin Qinhuang's maternal family was exposed, everything became strangely silent. The matter from 28 years ago was once again ruthlessly exaggerated. All the dirty water was poured onto Pei clan, especially the Pei clan head. He didn't care about his own flesh and blood relationship and forced his daughter, yet he still pretended to be sanctimonious. In this, the role of Lu Chengdi was molded into an infatuated man who threw his beloved woman out of the sea of fire, fiercely whitewashing that scum. All of this happened during this period of time, especially the part about Li Hongyuan. It probably happened when Jingwan and the others were climbing the mountain. Jingwan was too busy, so Li Hongyuan didn't specifically tell her. When she found out that they were now on the way to Pei County, Jingwan's expression was a bit subtle. Everything else was fine, but the part about Lu Chengdi. This version, no matter how others see it, no matter what they think, there will be one person who will be very happy. Li Hongyuan said unhurriedly. Indeed, he is obviously a shameless person who snatches by force. Now, perhaps he should be praised by many people. Maybe someone will use this as a blueprint to write an inspiring and tragic love story. What His Majesty wants to see the most is that he and the Imperial Gui Fei are in love, so deeply in love that they have no regrets, right? Maybe he heard too much and thought too much, and even took this as the reality of the past. Wan's idea is not bad. Find someone to write a few storybooks and find a way to send them to him. Jingwan glanced at him. He really didn't want to miss the slightest opportunity. If the storybooks were in Lu Chengdi's hands, who would benefit? Without a doubt, it would be this bastard. Lu Chengdi and his most beloved woman were the fruits of their love. How could he not love them? If Li Hongyuan didn't know what Jingwan was thinking, he chuckled. In this way, some of the things that made him suspicious in Jiangnan can be wiped out. He will feel even more guilty. His most beloved son is so capable, but he can't inherit the throne. This compensation will probably be like a tide. I don't even have to hide the matter of my contact with the Pei family from him. Anyway, the Pei family has collapsed and can't help me. He doesn't have to worry. I can also miss my birth mother from time to time and tell him what she was like before she got married. Jingwan reached out and pinched his cheek. Your skin is really thicker than the city wall. Li Hongyuan held her hand. Nonsense, it's at most half the thickness of the city wall. The corners of his mouth curved slightly, and there was a smile in his eyes. Jingwan was speechless. Li Hongyuan's visit to the Pei family's old residence had been done in advance. Of course, it was the type that didn't require a reply. It was just to let you know when this prince would arrive and to be prepared to welcome him. In reality, The recent events were too fatal for the Pei family. Many clansmen had rushed back. One wanted to avoid it, and the other wanted to find out what was going on. Therefore, the number of Pei clansmen at the Pei family's old residence was more than double the usual number. At the same time, there were also many married daughters of the Pei family who came back with divorce papers. To most people, Patriarch Pei could say, "No comment." However, to some people, such as the clan elders and the only survivor of the great scholars, who had found a remote place to live for some reason, Patriarch Pei couldn't easily dismiss them. Especially when it came to those heinous matters, he had to explain clearly. Patriarch Pei didn't make up any lies and told the truth. However, the art of speaking was always biased. He said that everything he did was for the Pei clan. His face was expressionless, but he described the current situation of the Pei clan, the challenges they faced, and the heavy responsibility he had to bear in order to maintain the clan and let the clan live happily. He continued until, "I failed to bring the clan back to glory and instead fell, letting down the ancestors." Tears flowed down his face. He wasn't complaining, but he was complaining. He wasn't trying to shirk responsibility, but he was trying to shirk responsibility. Although she didn't agree with some of Patriarch Pei's actions, as someone who also hoped for the family to return to glory, could she blame him? She couldn't. Moreover, at this time, the most important thing was to think of a way to salvage the situation. They couldn't expect to not suffer any losses. Li Hongyuan controlled public opinion too well. The Pei family's reputation had plummeted. It was already good enough that they could maintain the current situation and not develop in a worse direction. However, it was obvious that this was very difficult. When Patriarch Pei heard that Li Hongyuan came to visit, he stood up righteously and said that everything was his fault. He was willing to bear all the responsibility. If he couldn't do it alone, then everyone in his branch would bear the responsibility. He wouldn't implicate the other clansmen. As for those who were implicated, he couldn't do anything about it. He was willing to atone for his sins in the underworld. As such, no one blamed him. They only sighed helplessly. However, the funny thing was that no one stood up and said that they would bear the responsibility with him. No one knew what he was thinking at that moment. Therefore, when Li Hongyuan's carriage arrived at the entrance of Pei County, there was a large crowd of Pei clansmen. There were almost 1,000 of them. The carriage came to a stop, and Li Hongyuan stepped out of it. In the middle of the procession were 200 to 300 people. They were both old and young, and all of them knelt down. Their leader was none other than clan leader Pei, and all of them were wearing mourning clothes. Patriarch Pei's wife finally couldn't make it through a few days ago. Because of such a big incident, there was no funeral. Other than the main family, they didn't even inform the other clansmen to come back and attend the funeral. "Your Highness, this is all this commoner's fault. Please have mercy. Don't take your anger out on the Pei family." With a bang, he kowtowed to the ground. Other than the Pei family, there were many commoners who came to watch the show. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653995. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com Mobile Edition website: bicken.com. Chapter 354. Li Hongyuan stood with his hands behind his back and looked down at clan leader Pei. TSK, he still didn't forget to scheme even at this time. The living king of hell was very unhappy. This commoner knows that he has made a big mistake and angered your highness, but this commoner. Pain flashed across clan leader Pei's face. It was all done by the main family. The rest of the family didn't know. As the saying goes, the ignorant are not guilty. I ask your highness to be lenient. These words were so sincere. As soon as he finished speaking, the people beside him also begged for forgiveness and asked Li Hongyuan to be lenient. However, these people didn't plead for him. Was it because clan leader Pei's prestige was too high, or was it arranged before he came out? As the saying goes, the law can't punish the majority. Clan leader Pei thought that although he had schemed against Li Hongyuan, he didn't cause any harm to him. He had already caused clan leader Pei to fall to such a state. He wouldn't kill him, especially now that his relationship with clan leader Pei had been exposed. If he acted too ruthlessly, he would definitely be criticized. Such ruthlessness and mercilessness, even killing blood relatives, would definitely displease the emperor. Clan leader Pei insisted on this point. That was why he exposed Li Hongyuan as the true culprit behind clan leader Pei's persecution in front of everyone. Then, he used public opinion to threaten Li Hongyuan to not do anything to clan leader Pei. Even if clan leader Pei rapidly shrank and even withdrew from the ranks of aristocratic families, as long as clan leader Pei's foundation was still there, and now that the truth had been revealed, clan leader Pei didn't need to worry about not entering the court and not being related to the imperial family. With clan leader Pei's foundation and many outstanding descendants, it was only a matter of time before clan leader Pei stood up again. Because of all these plans, clan leader Pei's heart was still burning. He didn't look dispirited at all. That was why clan leader Pei had clearly suffered a great loss because of his self-righteousness, but the current situation was still the same. Perhaps clan leader Pei would rise again one day, but it definitely had nothing to do with him. It was Li Hongyuan's nature to never accept threats. Perhaps it was because Li Hongyuan didn't speak for a long time. Some people cautiously raised their heads. Some people were stunned when they saw Li Hongyuan's face clearly, especially the few people around clan leader Pei who looked younger than him. They were obviously clan leader Pei's sons. They were even more stunned when they looked at him. It's no wonder that mother fell sick after seeing you. Only then did he realize that something was wrong. Your Highness, please forgive this commoner. This commoner didn't mean it that way. Mother fell sick because she missed little sister all year round. She fell sick because of depression. When she saw Your Highness, she was agitated. Li Hongyuan's lips hooked into a cold smile. This blood uncle of his who didn't know his ranking, mumbled and didn't dare to continue speaking. In the entire Pei County, who didn't know that clan leader Pei's wife had already passed away. Logically speaking, even if she saw her grandson, it was possible that her body couldn't bear the excitement. However, unless she was already a lamp that had withered away and had no regrets after seeing the person she missed, she would be able to smile in the underworld for a short period of time. Other than that, as long as she endured through that period of time, as the saying goes, when a person meets a happy occasion, their spirit would be refreshed. After that, she should be even more healthy. The result was that she fell sick and died. Clan leader Pei's wife had a serious illness, but she didn't pass away in a day or two. Therefore, it made people suspect that being too agitated might not be happy. It could be that Jin Qinhuang was too fickle and said or did something that really agitated the old lady. Under the influence of people with ulterior motives, the people of Pei County knew Li Hongyuan in great detail. Li Hongyuan finally got down from the carriage and walked in front of clan leader Pei. Clan leader Pei has given a lot of thought. Why don't you personally put on a good show of blood splashing on the spot? Wouldn't the effect be even better? These words were neither light nor heavy. The people watching from the outside couldn't hear it, but the people near him could hear it clearly. Clan leader Pei's entire body stiffened. He faintly felt that it might be. Wang Ye is joking. This commoner sincerely asks for forgiveness and has no other intentions. Great-grandfather really didn't have any other intentions? Wasn't it because great-grandmother's condition had greatly improved, and you deliberately stopped her medicine in order to scheme against her grandson so that you could achieve some unspeakable goal, causing great-grandmother to be so angry that she vomited blood and died? Not far behind, Pei Xiuying, who was dressed in mourning clothes, suddenly stood up. Her voice was clear and cold as she spoke of the inside story. Her voice faintly contained suppressed pain and grief. Everyone looked at Pei Xiuying with different expressions. Naturally, most of them were shocked. Clan leader Pei didn't turn her head. She just clenched her fists. Her loose skin seemed to be stretched so tight that it was almost flat. Because her head was slightly lowered, no one could see the emotions in her eyes. Pei Xiuying's words weren't finished. That year, you didn't care about the flesh and blood relationship and pushed great-grandmother out, causing great-grandmother to be heartbroken. She accompanied you by your side for decades. Even if she didn't make any contributions, she still gave birth to your children. Everyone else saw her as having limitless glory. In the backyard of a person like you who wants to control everything, what difference is there between her and that puppet? Have you ever truly given her the slightest bit of honor? Now, you don't care about the relationship between husband and wife. In order to achieve your goal, you don't hesitate to kill your wife. How can you bear to do this? Some people looked at clan leader Pei. Their eyes were a bit subtle. Speaking of which, you're a big man and also a clan leader. You have full control of the backyard, hee. According to seniority, I'm Jin Qinhuang's cousin's niece. But you schemed and almost sent me to his bed. Under normal circumstances, doing this would only cause people to say a few words. However, for someone who often talks about the rules of an aristocratic family, to do this kind of thing, such a hypocritical thing, how can people despise you? Moreover, you keep telling me that I'm the most honorable daughter of an aristocratic family. I have my dignity and pride, yet you treat me like this? Is it really like some rumors, that we're all playthings for your benefit and there's not the slightest bit of emotion? Pei Xiuying's voice was slightly choked, but every word was exceptionally clear. The people around her were all juniors. In addition, Pei Xiuying's status was high in the past, so no one dared to offend her. Now, they were so frightened by her that their hands and feet went soft. For a moment, no one stopped her. Her parents and grandparents were so frightened that their souls almost left their bodies. But just as they wanted to stand up, they were stopped by Li Hongyuan's low voice. I know that I'm being unfilial by saying this, but it's really great-grandfather that makes people's hearts cold. You even did things that pushed Pei Shi into the abyss. Now, you still want to scheme against Jin Qinhuang. Have you thought of the consequences? It's true that Jin Qinhuang is Pei Shi's maternal grandson, but first, he's a prince. Then we talk about other things. If he angers the current emperor, what will happen to Pei Shi? Great-grandfather, don't be obstinate. Wait until Pei Shi is gone, then it'll be too late to regret. Speaking to this point, Pei Xiuying suddenly pulled out a dagger and ruthlessly stabbed it into her neck. That dagger was unusually sharp. In an instant, blood flowed out along the dagger. Pei Xiuying's face flashed with an unusually complex emotion. Then, her eyes started to slacken. Her body went soft and she started to fall down. All of this happened too suddenly. The people around her all had their heads lowered. Until she fell down, they saw the bright red blood. One by one, they screamed and scattered. As a result, the large circle around Pei Xiuying was completely empty. Only she was left lying in the middle. Her body was white and dazzling red. Such a sharp contrast inexplicably made people somewhat frightened. Placing righteousness before family, this kind of thing, some people praised. But there were also people who felt that this kind of person was heartless and unscrupulous. Not only was she unfilial, she was also disloyal, heartless and unjust. In short, if it was their own family, they couldn't wait to strangle her to death. Because, there was no lack of people who scolded Pei Xiuying in their hearts. Naturally, there were also people who doubted the authenticity of it. After all, Pei clan head's good name was out there. Now, she was dead. She committed suicide. Without any hesitation, she sacrificed herself for her family. She might be unfilial, but she used her life to atone for her sins. No matter what, everything could be wiped clean. Only then did clan head Pei stand up. His body was faintly trembling. He slowly turned around and saw Pei Xiuying lying in a pool of blood with her eyes wide open. His eyes were filled with deep disbelief and uncontrollable anger. He was actually framed by someone he had carefully cultivated. Moreover, because the other party was dead, there was no way he could clear his name. Compared to losing his life in public, no one would believe his words. He thought that everything was under his control, but reality gave him a ruthless slap. He thought that she was just a good chess piece. Even if she was crippled, he could still squeeze her a little more. https://www.bicon.com/11/11807/6653997. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will handle it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicon.com. Bicon. Com mobile version reading website. Bicon.com. Chapter 355. How does it feel to be devoured? Li Hongyuan's slightly amused voice came from behind him, but this laughter was full of mockery. Originally, even Li Hongyuan was quite surprised. Originally, things were a little unfavorable for him. Although he did not care, it did not matter whether it was resolved or not, it would only affect his attitude towards the Pei family. That was all. However, who knew that Pei Yuing would come up with a stroke of genius and make a 180-degree reversal of the situation? This was also good. He did not care about his reputation, but his wife cared about his reputation. Although he could not be any darker now, even if he splashed a layer of ink, he still looked like that. However, his wife probably wanted to wash his reputation clean, even though she might have to bear the reputation of being jealous for the rest of her life. Grandfather, Li Hongyuan called him with a particularly sarcastic tone, I think you should know this prince's reputation in the capital as well as his style of doing things. Could it be that you think those are all fake? Let me tell you, other than my nickname, everything else is real. Some are even worse. For example, I will seek revenge for the smallest grievance, I am ruthless, and so on. If you want to ask me for help, you should act like you are asking for help. Threatening me is the stupidest thing to do. As long as the Qi Yuan is not destroyed, the Pei family will never be able to become an aristocratic family again. It is already a miracle that the descendants of the Pei family are able to become a third-rate family. As long as I am alive, I will not stop the Pei family from becoming an official. At most, they will be a fifth-rank family. Clan leader Pei's body trembled. He wanted to restore the glory of the Pei family. Compared to that, he was one step behind. If he had to die to protect the Pei family, he would not hesitate. After all, at his age, he was already considered old and had no regrets. But now, this is all because of you. Remember to repent to your ancestors. Clan leader Pei's lips trembled. Those who did not know would think that he was in disbelief or was furious. In fact, his reaction at this moment was completely different from Pei Yuying's. Even though this commoner has schemed against you many times, I did not hurt you at all. The Pei family is your blood after all. It is inevitable that you will lose your magnanimity by being so ruthless. In the future, how can you make them submit? In the end, he did not dare to speak out loud. At this point, he could not let the Pei family's last hope be cut off. You should be glad that you did not succeed. If you did, I will exterminate the entire Pei family. Li Hongyuan said casually, but the ruthlessness and bloodthirstiness in his words made people tremble in fear. Li Hongyuan chuckled again, but it made people's scalps go numb and their hearts turn cold. So that maternal grandfather can die a little more understanding. You shouldn't have schemed against this Princess Wang Fei. The entire Pei family can't even compare to a single finger of hers. If all your schemes were directed at this prince, perhaps this prince would still be in the mood to play with you. Clan leader Pei's face trembled. I did not think that Wang Ye would be an infatuated person. You should have realized this when we were at the water stronghold. That's right, Jin Qinhuang's love for his Wang Fei was not concealed in front of him. It was just that he did not believe it and thought it was just an act. Because his initial perception was wrong, everything that followed was wrong. In the end, He judged this grandson with the mentality of an ordinary man. However, he was not ordinary. Even so, in the future, the other women by Wang Ye's side will still scheme against Wang Fei. Could it be that Wang Ye will also purge them all? Could it be that Wang Ye will guard the current Wang Fei for the rest of his life? Clan leader Pei said sarcastically. Why not? Li Hongyuan did not hesitate and said as a matter of course. Clan leader Pei suddenly turned his head. It was obvious that this point shocked him more than anything else. Want a beauty but not the country. What is the relationship between the two? Li Hongyuan lightly interrupted him. In the future, even if Wang Ye can guard it, will others allow it? Balance between all sides. Do I need other people's permission for my matters? They only need to do their job well. If they touch Ben Wang's head, that is overstepping their authority. If they want it, then use it. If they don't want it, then give it up. There are many people in the world that can be used, that's all. And to use women to balance it, that's just rubbish. Although it was still faint and even a little undisciplined, clan leader Pei was truly shocked by Li Hongyuan's hidden boldness. He carefully looked at this grandson of his. This child, perhaps other than his face, did not have any resemblance to clan leader Pei. He paid attention to the principle of moderation in everything, but his bones were overbearing to a certain extreme. However, he was not obstinate and self-opinionated. More importantly, he was intelligent and shrewd. His methods were not bad. Perhaps he could really do things that others could not do. Clan leader Pei finally admitted that he was ridiculously wrong at this moment. He was indeed self-opinionated. May Wang Ye's wish be fulfilled. Li Hongyuan looked at clan leader Pei, who had calmed down and accepted everything. He had to admit that if this grandfather of his could correct his attitude, he would definitely be a truly capable person. He might be able to fulfill his wish and let clan leader Pei rise again. Unfortunately, it was already too late. It was too late for him to realize this. Although we do not have the title, we are still related by blood. Ben Wang wishes to burn a stick of incense for the old madam. No matter what kind of reputation clan leader Pei had now, he was still the clan leader. He waved his hand and ordered people to clear the way. The clan leader Pei naturally obeyed. Li Hongyuan returned to the carriage. Although Jingwan did not see what had just happened, she still knew the details. Putting everything else aside, there was Pei Xiuying. She is a fierce and vengeful person. She is such a proud person and clearly knows that she will not have a good life in the future. It does not seem too surprising that she would take such a path. However, clan leader Pei was not lightly tricked by her. Not only did he lose his chastity in his later years, even after death, he will always carry a bad name. When he was at Quanzhou Prefecture, wasn't he beaten up by her aunts? Even great-grandfather is so pitiful, those aunts will definitely not have it easy, right? What does it have to do with us? Indeed. Looking at the current situation, the following matters should be smoother than expected. Li Hongyuan nodded. Naturally, he was happy to have less trouble. When they arrived at the clan leader Pei's residence, Li Hongyuan and Jingwan alighted from the carriage and led everyone through the door. Without mentioning anything else, just this residence alone gave off an extraordinary ancient charm. After entering the morning hall, Li Hongyuan and Jingwan burned a stick of incense. Apart from that, they did not say or do anything else. After they came out, Li Hongyuan did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. The clan leader Pei's ancestors have passed down an order for you to hand over all the things that you have kept well. Clan leader Pei was stunned. He probably did not expect Li Hongyuan to ask for those things. His mind raced. May I ask if there is anything special about them, Your Highness? Are you sure you want to know? If you know, the clan leader Pei will really be gone. Clan leader Pei scratched his heart and lungs, but he did not dare to ask more. However, he was unwilling to give up. Is it related to the clan leader Pei's withdrawal from the imperial court? Li Hongyuan smiled faintly. Clan leader Pei understood, but he could not continue to ask. He personally went to retrieve the things and handed them to Li Hongyuan. Indeed, there was a dragon and phoenix jade pendant, a book, and a painting. It was not that clan leader Pei had not studied these things before, but after so many years, he had not discovered anything. Li Hongyuan asked someone to collect the things. Before you die, clean up the remnants of the previous dynasty's imperial family. Wait for this prince to deal with it. In order to prevent any mishaps, they will probably be exterminated. After that, Li Hongyuan did not say anything else and directly left. He specially made a trip, but the time he stayed was so short. Digression. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653999 HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 356. Thinking about it, we have been away from the capital for half a year. Returning to the capital again, there is a reluctance to part with the freedom and unrestrained, but there is also a deep longing for our loved ones. However, the time we have been away is not short. The feeling of returning home is also a pleasant one. Jingwan sat next to Li Hongyuan and said with a chuckle. Perhaps it was because, although most of the main road was in the water, the total amount of time spent in the carriage far exceeded that. Perhaps it was because of this that Jingwan's motion sickness symptoms actually lessened a lot. Now, they were about to enter the capital, but it was only a slight discomfort. Perhaps it was because her mood was good, her spirit was also good. Li Hongyuan held Jingwan's hand and gently kneaded it. We will find another opportunity in the future. It's very difficult, isn't it? This time, it can be considered a coincidence. As a Qin Wang or Jun Wang, under normal circumstances, they were not allowed to leave the capital without an imperial edict. If they were to leave the capital by imperial edict, it would usually be for official business. A certain person had no power or influence. Opportunities are always created by people. Just like this time, when he started to plan this matter, his first goal was to take his wife out for a stroll. This time, it took far more time than expected. There should be a lot of impeachment in the court, right? Moreover, there were so many things. The amount of rare treasures that were collected was quite a lot. Not to mention, we still had to buy things along the way, big and small. Sometimes, we had to transport entire ships. When we reached the capital, it would be at least a dozen carriages. It would be hard to not attract attention. So what? No matter how they jump, they will not hurt me in the end. Jingwan smiled faintly. That's right. According to the information they received when they were in Jiangnan, there was a period of time when Lu Chengdi was completely engrossed in the conversation. Even important memorials had never been read in such a serious manner. Unsurprisingly, he accused Jin Qinhuang of playing around in Jiangnan, delaying his return, harboring ill intentions, wantonly amassing wealth, and shaking the foundation of the country. Each of these charges was heavier than the other. Unfortunately, they were all suppressed by Lu Chengdi. Jin Qinhuang, whether it was the cheating case of the college examination or the corruption of the salt policy, they were all handled beautifully. The former won a lot of reputation for the court, the latter filled the national treasury. He restrained his temperament and did not act recklessly in Jiangnan. He just spent some time touring Jiangnan and did not delay official business. At the beginning, he allowed him to not delay official business and not cause trouble. What was with these impeachments today? Did they want him, the emperor, to go back on his words? Lu Chengdi might not be the kind of emperor who made arbitrary decisions, but he was also not a puppet emperor who was pinched in the palm of someone else's hand. In the end, he still held real power. When he was truly angry, the officials below could only tuck their tails between their legs. Especially when it was mentioned wantonly amassing wealth, Lu Chengdi's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Excluding the gold and silver ingots that were directly transported out of the treasury, the total amount of gold and silver ingots that entered the capital's national treasury was more than 20 million taels of silver. And the wealth that Jing Wan obtained in the Jiangnan Mountains, after conversion, was more than 50 million taels of silver. It should be known that the annual tax revenue of the entire Jiangnan was only slightly more than 10 million taels of silver. The treasury, Jin Qin Wang had reported to him, and Jing Wan had reported to him. In other words, his son went to Jiangnan and plagiarized nearly 80 million taels of wealth. Where did this money come from? At least 99% of it was from stuffing his own pockets. At the beginning, when it was reported that it was more than 10 million taels, it made him furious. But now, he really wanted to disregard everything and behead the entire family of those officials. The local officials had close ties with the capital and went through relationships. He didn't know if these people were giving filial gifts to the princes. How could it be that it was only a mere 10 million taels? Each and every one of them now jumped out and said that Old Sixth and his wife were amassing wealth. Lu Chengdi couldn't wait to slap them to death. Lu Chengdi used various reasons to deal with people in the court. Many people were demoted, their salaries were deducted, and the princes who were conferred the title of prince when they reached adulthood all suffered. All of them restrained themselves again and again for fear of angering Lu Chengdi. And when Lu Chengdi saw that they were acting timidly, he couldn't help but be angry. It was simply a vicious cycle. When Li Hongyuan told these things to Jing Wan gloated a little. Moreover, after they left the Pei family, they further compressed the Pei family. In order to survive, the Pei family basically gave up more than half of their heritage collection. Moreover, the price was so low that it made people unable to restrain their anger. Finally, the head of the Pei family fell ill and couldn't take it anymore. But even so, he secretly executed the descendants of the previous dynasty. In order to control them better, this branch could be said to be a single descendant, so it was not difficult to deal with them. Li Hongyuan also stopped at this time. In addition, Li Hongyuan also sent people to clean up the remnants of the previous dynasty. Without a leader, coupled with the failure to kill Li Hongyuan in the Quanzhou prefecture and the shock of Li Hongyuan's bloody methods, they basically became a sheet of loose sand. The main thing was that some people were killed, and the rest were not to be feared. These things were more or less dealt with, and basically became a more regular, daily. When there was a special situation, special treatment would be done. After that, it was basically sightseeing. And from one day, Jingwan started to buy all kinds of things. After all, Jiangnan was rich and there were definitely many good things. It was already the beginning of October when they returned to the capital. When they left the capital, it was the beginning of April, and it was spring. When they returned, it was winter. When they left, it was naturally a grand occasion. Of course, the people who came back were all present. Undoubtedly, all the officials of Quanzhou were already in place. None of the temporary officials stayed behind. After being busy outside for so long, returning to the capital should have been a joyous occasion. Unfortunately, most of them were not in good spirits. They were even more dispirited than Jing Wan, who had motion sickness. Previously, Li Hongyuan had already changed into the imperial robes of a prince, but Jing Wan did not wear the imperial robes. At the city gate, several adult princes and the sickly fifth prince welcomed their brother back. Li Hongyuan even gave them face. He alighted from the carriage and exchanged a few words with them. And naturally, they brought Lu Chengdi's verbal order, asking him to go back to the prince's mansion to recuperate. It would not be too late to go to the palace tomorrow. Li Hongyuan had never been polite to Lu Chengdi. He would not show any resistance and go to the palace in a travel-worn state. Therefore, he swung his sleeves, turned around, got into the carriage, and left these brothers behind. As for these princes, they could only twitch the corners of their mouths and endure it. This person's bad temper had not changed at all. He was arrogant and did not take these brothers seriously. However, their main target was not them, but the accompanying officials. Although they kept exchanging letters, in fact, they could not know too much from these letters. Naturally, they had to ask in detail. Of course, these officials were not as lucky as Li Hongyuan. They had to go to the palace to meet the emperor and report their trip. With so many people, it would take a lot of time for Lu Qingdi to ask them one by one. But they did not dare to go to the palace in batches. Even if it was not their turn today, they had to go to the palace and wait obediently. This was not a mental tiredness, but a physical tiredness. As for Jin Qin Wang Fu, because they had already received the news, the steward of the Fu had long been waiting at the gate. A dark mass of people knelt to welcome them. Naturally, no one paid attention to them. Returning to the main courtyard, Jingwan suddenly felt that her bones had softened. She sat down and leaned against the big pillow, not wanting to move. The servant girls were busy, but it was something that they were used to doing. Because only Gong Mama and 2 senior servant girls were left to serve Jingwan, the others had returned to the capital first. At this moment, everything was in order, as if the masters of this Fu had never left for a moment. The back of Li Hongyuan's hand gently brushed Jingwan's cheek, with a bit of pity. Wan, go soak in a hot bath and relax. Then let Gong Mama help you loosen your bones. Rest well today, I reckon that there will be a lot of work tomorrow. Jingwan nodded her head. Wasn't that right? When she went to Jiangnan together, it could be considered as sneaking away. Before leaving, she had married off all of her husband's personal servant girls. These were all crimes. The number of people who wanted to settle accounts with her was not a small number. As the genuine mother-in-law, noble consort Su, she needed to be 120% alert. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654002 HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 357. Jingwan held Li Hongyuan's hand and rubbed it coquettishly. She smiled faintly and said, "Noble consort Su is a loving mother and a good mother-in-law. How could she make things difficult for me? Yes, she's a good mother-in-law. The other brothers have been in deep trouble recently, and third imperial brother is no exception. Although the imperial noble consort is still favored, she is already old. Imperial father is staying at her place, and she has to find someone else to serve her. She doesn't even have a chance to sway him. Right now is the critical period of fighting for the throne. In order to balance things out, Imperial father is suppressing noble consort Su. At this time, she doesn't dare to say anything. Each and every one of them wants this prince to divert Imperial father's attention. Moreover, I have evidence of those good brothers receiving many benefits from Jiangnan. As long as you're smart, you should be tactful. I'm going to visit Imperial father tomorrow, and it won't be a short time. If noble consort Su deliberately makes things difficult for you, you might as well tell her a little. Third imperial brother is her lifeblood. No matter how angry she is, she can only be pleasant to you. Noble consort Su originally took good care of herself, and later, she received the skincare products from Jingwan. The effects were excellent, and her charm and bearing were outstanding. When it came to Li Hongyuan, there was no need to talk about it. Threatening her like this. So what if I threaten her? To be honest, Li Hongyuan was becoming more and more impatient with superficial efforts. She is your adoptive mother. You two have a deep relationship. I am your wife. Under normal circumstances, the status of a wife can't surpass that of a mother. If she feels that she has been bullied by you, just come and complain to me. Jingwan laughed. If noble consort Su really went to find this guy, she would probably be so angry that she would vomit blood. However, she couldn't show it. Because her self-restraint was too good, her son naturally didn't notice. Then, this person probably didn't realize that he had done something wrong at all. Then, he would just clap his hands and leave indifferently. Whether or not to threaten her, we'll talk about it when the time comes. However, you still have to be filial when necessary. Give her some immortality pills. In any case, she had Gong Jiu make some later. Wan, do as you see fit. Okay, I understand. Go take a bath. Why don't I go with Wan? Li Hongyuan lowered his voice, sounding slightly bewitching. Jingwan's resistance to beauty could be said to be growing rapidly. However, when faced with someone's deliberate seduction, she couldn't help but feel her heart ripple. Jingwan turned her head and slapped Li Hongyuan on the back of his hand. Go by yourself. Li Hongyuan chuckled and deliberately pinched Jingwan's face. Then, he left before Jingwan flew into a rage out of humiliation. Jingwan looked at his back and was too lazy to move. She suddenly smiled and moved her body. She was back. Although she might be restricted, it was already pretty good to be able to go out for half a year. With such a background, many people would not have the chance to go out in their entire lives. Those people would probably go from one backyard to another and end their lives like this. As for her, it was a piece of cake for her to go to the farm from time to time for 10 days or half a month. That's right. In Jingwan's view, it was basically impossible to travel far away from the capital. Li Hongyuan basically didn't hide the current situation in the imperial court from her. According to him, perhaps in a few years, this battle for the throne would be over. After slowly learning about Li Hongyuan's trump card, Jingwan didn't think that he would lose, unless he didn't want that position. However, Jingwan had never thought of this possibility. At that time, when he ascended to that position, it would be even more impossible for him to leave the capital for sightseeing. It was a bit regretful, but she was willing to give up that little bit of freedom for the friendship between the two of them. Of course, if Li Hongyuan had a change of heart, she would be forcibly deprived of her freedom. However, Jingwan wouldn't think about this possibility now, let alone be sentimental about gains and losses. Princess, the water is ready. Qing Zhu came out of the clean room. Jingwan got up. Her husband was right. It was good to relax. In the clean room, other than Nanny Gong, there was also Daybreak. Speaking of which, in the past few months, Daybreak was almost the same as the other maidservants. She did things with ease and didn't seem to have any discomfort. Compared to the beginning, her personality was much more lively and she smiled from the bottom of her heart more often. In short, she seemed to be less fairy and more human. She got along better with everyone. However, Daybreak was a talented woman. She didn't have a problem with the things a talented woman should have. It was also not a problem for her to learn some rules when serving others. But in the aspect of needlework, she was a bit lacking. Moreover, in a place of prostitution, she probably didn't have the time to train girls in needlework. Jingwan's 6 senior maidservants all knew how to needlework. It was just a matter of whether they were good or bad at it. However, even the worst Hei Mei was 30% proficient in needlework. When Daybreak started to learn needlework, her delicate hands suffered and her fingers were pricked countless times. Other people felt the pain when they saw it. Jingwan told her to stop learning, but Daybreak's stubbornness flared up. She stubbornly insisted on learning needlework. Until now, she had made some progress and it was no longer pricking her hands. Daybreak, hum a song for me. Jingwan leaned on the edge of the tub and said. Daybreak chuckled, yes. Daybreak naturally wanted to give up on her previous life. However, she didn't mind singing, playing the zither, and dancing with Jingwan at all. Daybreak's voice was very pleasant to listen to. Moreover, she could change her voice. Thus, she could sing many different songs with different flavors. Daybreak's voice was not loud at this time. It was gentle and soothing to listen to. It made people feel more relaxed. After the bath, Nanny Gong did some maintenance for Jingwan. Her bones were loose all over her body. Then, she fell asleep just like that. Nanny Gong was about to carry Jingwan out when Li Hongyuan happened to lift the curtain and come in. They hurriedly bowed. Under normal circumstances, they would be ignored, and this time was no exception. Li Hongyuan carried Jingwan out and directly placed her on the bed. He lay down beside her and was probably preparing to take a nap. After all, it was not night time. This nap would only last for 2 hours. Jingwan came back to her senses. Li Hongyuan wanted to continue to stick to Jingwan. He hadn't returned to the capital for a long time and had a lot of things to do. Therefore, he was not polite and asked to leave. Jingwan's main task was to tidy up the things she bought later. As for the things she received, except for a very small portion that was intercepted by Li Hongyuan, Jingwan was too lazy to ask about the rest. Li Hongyuan had seen and used too many good things in his life. There were very few things that could catch his eye. Jingwan just took a look at the list. She didn't know if she didn't see it. When she saw it, she was really shocked. It seemed that she had bought too many things. Jingwan was a little speechless. However, as the saying goes, one's own sin must be dealt with properly. The original purpose of buying these things was to give them away. Naturally, they were all high-quality things. If she bought too many things, she would give more when she gave them away. Well, it was settled. As for whether she would attract all kinds of attention because of giving away too many things in the end, it had nothing to do with her. Now the most important thing was to send the things to the palace tomorrow. None of the things in the main palace could be missing. Moreover, they had to be carefully selected. However, this was not a difficult thing. As for the things to be sent to the other families, they could prepare them after returning from the palace. What Li Hongyuan needed to prepare was naturally to make things difficult for Lu Qingdi again. To be honest, according to Li Hongyuan's ability to cheat lousy, if he did it 2 more times, Lu Qingdi's lifespan would definitely be shortened. In fact, at this moment, Lu Qingdi's heart could not be any more stifled. And those officials, whether they were reporting work or listening at the side, their legs were soft and their hearts were trembling. There was no other reason. It was because there were many things that they did not know. Lu Qingdi knew more than them. Lu Qingdi smashed the teacup, the booklet, the inkstone, and almost even the imperial jade seal. Among the accompanying officials, except for those officials who were not qualified to stand in front of Lu Qingdi, only Yu Zhongqing and Li Suyen were calm. They were dressed in official robes and carried a sword at their waist. They both thought of Jin Qinhuang. These people, before they even entered Jiangnan, they were all sent out by Jin Qinhuang. Don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but none of these people were clean. Basically, they were all carrying missions. As a matter of fact, many of them were caught by the black-robed guards. Therefore, for this mission, not to mention merit, it would be good if they were not demoted by 3 ranks and had their salary deducted for 3 years. The whole process took less time than expected. Because the more it went on, the more impatient Lu Qingdi became. In the end, he directly told them to scram. Scram back to write the booklet. If they could not hand it in tomorrow, he would make them peel off a layer of skin. The next day, Li Hongyuan and Jingwan entered the palace. Li Hongyuan gave lousy face and wore the imperial robe of a Qinhuang. After all, it was an official mission, the clothes should be more formal. Although Jingwan was not dressed as a Qinhuang Fei, it was still a splendid attire. She wore a full set of red gemstones. The main color of her clothes was red. Her whole person looked as delicate and beautiful as fire. It made her complexion look even more tender and tender. Her complexion looked even better. This appearance was absolutely eye-catching for the harem that entered the same abyss of suffering. According to the rules, Jingwan first went to pay her respects to the empress and sent a carefully selected gift. Not to mention other things, for women in the harem who did not need to give birth to children, the ageless pill was definitely something that could not be refused. Of course, Jingwan generously sent the prescription up. It was clearly stated above. If the empress was not at ease with the things she sent, she would directly let someone check the prescription. The empress smiled and praised her. The husband and wife had put in a lot of effort and so on. Then she used the excuse that Gue Fei Su was waiting for her to let her leave. Jingwan was not surprised by the empress's attitude. After all, she was a mortal enemy of Gue Fei Su and had no direct conflict with Jin Qinhuang. She had no reason to make things difficult for Jingwan. Jingwan did not know that when the Empress saw her, she once again regretted that she could not become her daughter-in-law. It should be known that Kong Qinhuang's stepfii had not been found yet. Every girl that the Empress was interested in would always find all kinds of excuses to refuse. Since Lu Chengdi did not care about this matter, the Empress could only stare helplessly. There were basically no suitable girls that supported Kong Qinhuang. Jingwan went to Gue Fei Su's place. As expected, Gue Fei Su's heart, liver and lungs hurt from the very good scent that she exuded from head to toe. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654004. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bikugua mobile reading website: bicken.com. Chapter 358. Jingwan smiled. Daughter-in-law greets Imperial Mother. Many blessings to Imperial Mother. As the saying goes, one should not slap a smiling face. Moreover, she had not returned for a long time, so she should be happy. No matter how upset she was, plus the new and old hatred, she could not show it at this moment, unless Imperial concubine Su wanted to tear up the perfect image she had maintained for 20 to 30 years. Therefore, Imperial concubine Su smiled, but the corners of her eyes unconsciously raised. Imperial concubine Su's eyes were special. When she raised the corners of her eyes, there was an indescribable sense of sharpness. When she was young, she was quite flamboyant and often showed the corners of her eyes. Later, it gradually weakened, making her temperament soften, but it did not mean that her heart also softened. Occasionally, when she lost control of her emotions or deliberately did something, that feeling might be very obvious. No need for formalities. Imperial concubine Su waved her hand perfunctorily. Jingwan got up and turned to Princess Rue. "Third sister-in-law, nice to meet you." Princess Rue returned the greeting unhurriedly. "Sixth sister-in-law, you are finally back. Imperial Mother has been talking about you every day. Wang Yi also misses Mu Fei every day." Opening one's mouth was something that required a bit of effort. Who didn't know how to say good things? Don't say such nonsense. It's been half a year. It's good that you are back. Speaking of which, Yuan really dotes on his wife. He probably can't bear to refuse you many things. But as a wife, if you can get the love of your husband, you should be more considerate and think of him. Sixth sister-in-law, don't you think so? Imperial concubine Su's smile did not change, like an elder who carefully taught a child. Jingwan's eyes flashed slightly. Was she saying that she was arrogant because of the love, did not know when to stop? More seriously, violated the 3 obedience and 4 virtues? Jingwan thought it was quite funny. To put it bluntly, Imperial concubine Su was only a concubine in the imperial family. In other families, there was only one proper mother-in-law. But after all, their identities were different. Well, she just listened. As for whether she understood or not, whether she really didn't understand or not, whether she really understood or not, of course, only she herself knew. Jingwan's smile was also inconvenient, and there was even a bit of naivety in it. Mu Fei is right. Wang Yi loves this concubine, so this concubine will naturally support Wang Yi in everything. It was your son who wanted to take me to Jiangnan. It was your son who made me accept that huge bribe. I didn't even care about my own reputation. Who else could be more obedient than me? She wasn't in a good mood to begin with. Naturally, it was easier for her to be annoyed. She was immediately annoyed by Jingwan. She didn't think that Jingwan didn't understand. She was obviously pretending to be dumb. How could she not be angry? However, she couldn't find any fault with her answer. Noble consort Su was angry. Since she couldn't understand her in a roundabout way, she would be direct. She sighed softly and said, Yuan is going to Jiangnan on official business this time, and it's a very important matter. Sixth daughter-in-law, even if you don't know the importance of it, you should be aware. Not to mention other things, when a man goes out, there's no reason for a woman to follow him. Even if Yuan asked you to go, you should dissuade him. Jingwan frowned. Mu Fei is saying that you want this daughter-in-law to disobey Wang Yi? How can that be? The last few words were quite righteous. Noble consort Su almost vomited blood. She picked up the teacup to hide her anger. After calming down, she continued, It's not disobedience. It's reasonable and appropriate advice. As long as it's correct, it's fine to say a few words. Imperial Mother is right. However, you were the one who raised His Highness. You know best what kind of person he is. Do you think that when he makes a decision, he will listen to my advice? Jingwan's expression and tone revealed a little helplessness. Noble consort Su choked again. This time, it was because she thought of Li Hongyuan's bad temper. She rubbed her aching temples. Yuan's temper isn't good. As the person who sleeps beside him and as his virtuous wife, you should always advise him. Jingwan's face showed a bit of confusion. She mumbled, Mu Fei, you raised him for more than 20 years. Wang Ye's current temperament. It's all because of you. Moreover, it's fine to say a few words occasionally, but at this time, don't you usually say that you're married? Her voice was a bit weak. What did she mean? Was she accusing her of not teaching her son well? Noble consort Su looked at Jingwan. She couldn't hide the unkindness in her eyes. Bear with it some more, slowly, slowly. Noble consort Su felt that Jingwan was deliberately beating around the bush with her. There seemed to be contradictions between the 3 obedience and 4 virtues. How to deal with it? She naturally had to find a balance. But if she really wanted to argue, she couldn't. If she continued, this Luoshe would definitely continue to talk nonsense with her. She suddenly found that this old 6th daughter-in-law was much more difficult to deal with than old 3rd daughter-in-law. But now, the emperor paid more attention to the Minister of Personnel Affairs. She had to consider her attitude towards Luoshe. Not to mention, she also had to consider Yuan. Yuan seemed to have some feelings for this woman. In short, if you encounter this kind of thing in the future, don't go with him. Next time? Wang Yi will have a chance to leave the capital next time? Jingwan was a bit confused and a bit sad. This time, noble consort Su was choked speechless. Jin Qinhuang's situation was known by the whole capital. Princess Rue, who acted as a background on the side, didn't change her expression, but she couldn't help but be speechless in her heart. This 6th sister-in-law was too powerful. Her mother was indeed a kind mother-in-law, but when she faced her, she was very frightened. This 6th sister-in-law dared to play dumb and choked her until she couldn't speak, but she couldn't lose her temper. You've been in Jiangnan for so long. Tell Ben Gong, what have you encountered? Noble consort Su stiffly changed the topic. It's hard to say. We've obtained a lot of good things. Some of them were prepared for Mu Fei, and some were personally picked by Wang Yi. Jingwan turned around and had people send the things in. It wasn't much, but each of them were treasures. The ageless pill was still the highlight. Noble consort Su really showed a relatively sincere smile. Yuan is considerate. You're also a filial child. Jingwan humbly said a few words. At this time, she appeared graceful. Just standing there, she felt exceptionally calm. The change before and after was obvious, but Jingwan didn't hide it at all. Noble consort Su didn't want to bother about this anymore, but she also put down the ageless pill. Her expression also faded a lot. After all, as far as she knew, this daughter-in-law had received a lot of good things in Jiangnan. Perhaps the things that were given to her were all good, but definitely not one of them came from those things. Her face became serious. Lao Lu daughter-in-law, Ben Gong heard that you wantonly accepted bribes in Jiangnan. This matter has been abuzz both inside and outside the court. Is this true? Jingwan's expression didn't change. it's true. Ready-made gold and silver, plus gold and silver notes, as well as all kinds of rare treasures. Added together, it's several tens of millions of taels. Her tone was light, and there was even a faint smile. Noble Consort Su was shocked by this amount and immediately smashed her cup. You have big guts. You actually dared to mislead Yuan like this. Jingwan seemed to have known this would happen and promptly retreated. Only the hem of her clothes was splashed with water. She looked at Noble Consort Su and calmly said, Imperial Mother, did you misunderstand something? It's true that this daughter-in-law accepted things, but this matter was also tacitly approved by Imperial Father. Everything was listed and presented to Imperial Father early on. After these things are sorted out, they'll all be put into the national treasury. Noble Consort Su's half-real anger seemed to have been doused with a bucket of ice water. She couldn't help but shiver. She was an intelligent person. With just a little thought, she was able to figure out most of the powerful relationships within. Then, she thought back to the time when the courtiers, Shan Yuan-er and her husband, were at their fiercest. The emperor's attitude was truly strange. He was so biased that he didn't care about the interests of the entire country. So this was the reason. Even now, Tian-er couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. So it was Imperial Mother who misunderstood you. Tell me, what exactly is going on here? Jingwan stared at Noble Consort Su for a moment before she slowly opened her mouth. This daughter-in-law had an accident. Imperial Mother should be more concerned about Prince's safety. After all, Imperial Mother didn't even say a word about the assassination attempts that happened time and time again. Noble Consort Su paused. When she saw Jingwan's faint gaze, she felt her hair stand on end, as if she had been completely seen through. At that time, it was because https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654019. HTML. Click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com Mobile Edition. Chapter 359. Because after all, His Highness was unharmed. After a long time, Mother forgot about it. Jingwan smiled faintly and found an excuse for Noble Consort Su. When Noble Consort Su heard that Li Hongyuan was assassinated, wasn't she worried at all? Definitely not. It was said that Noble Consort Su treated Li Hongyuan sincerely. Under normal circumstances, when Li Hongyuan had a conflict with her biological son, Noble Consort Su would have her biological son avoid it. However, there was a big premise, and that was that the conflict was only small and did not involve the fight for the throne. Did Li Hongyuan plan the fight for the throne? Not on the surface, as far as Noble Consort Su knew. Therefore, when she learned that Li Hongyuan had an accident, not only was Lu Chengdi furious, but Noble Consort Su also didn't sleep well for several days and looked particularly haggard. After she learned that Li Hongyuan was safe, it wasn't that she didn't have the thought of directly sending him back to the capital. However, this was a national matter, and she couldn't do as she pleased. However, perhaps it had been a long time, so she had let go of her worries. Now, there were more important things. After all, it was related to her son. If she asked, she would definitely ask. According to Imperial Consort Su's meticulous nature, even if she forgot now, she would ask about it sooner or later after she sorted things out one by one. She might even ask about it one by one. However, now that Jingwan had exposed it, the nature of the matter was completely different. Regardless of whether Jingwan was really helping her out or pretending, in short, Jingwan was accusing her of hypocrisy in Noble Consort Su's ears. How could she not be angry? One had to know that the struggle between the various parties was getting more and more intense. The few princes at the back were becoming more and more familiar with the affairs of the imperial court, and they were constantly breeding ambition, so one had to be on guard against them. As for the arch-enemies, because the emperor wanted balance, he couldn't suppress them no matter what. If they caught a trace of blood, they would immediately bite down and not let go. Even if this title was not confirmed, it would most likely affect her perfect image in the emperor's heart. It had been more than 20 years. The women in the imperial harem could not compare to a dead person. The relationship between her and her adopted son could not be any worse. In the Jiangnan matter, none of the accompanying officials knew the inside story. Those who knew the inside story either couldn't see it in advance or didn't dare to easily contact and inquire about it because that would touch the emperor's bottom line. They couldn't bear the consequences. Now, only this daughter-in-law knew a little about the situation. Noble consort Su knew very well that she wouldn't be able to see Li Hongyuan so soon. Once she saw him, there would be no need to ask him in detail. She wanted to be one step ahead just to make arrangements one step ahead of the others. Thus, the real reason why Imperial Consort Su was looking for trouble was because she wanted to suppress Jing Wan and get what she wanted from her more easily. However, this daughter-in-law was not afraid of her at all. She was even targeting her with hidden needles. Noble Consort Su was furious. She forced herself to calm down and then realized that something was wrong. Under normal circumstances, when the mother and son had a good relationship, as long as the daughter-in-law wanted to live a good life, she would curry favor with the mother-in-law. In the imperial harem, not to mention the imperial harem who didn't have any status or favor, someone with a noble status like her should be respectfully flattered and carefully served, just like the third daughter-in-law, Madame Lu. How could this Madame Luo be so daring? The daughter-in-law's attitude towards the mother-in-law often depended on the person between them. Was there a problem between them? Or was this Yuan Er's true attitude towards her? The former? This daughter-in-law's complexion was excellent and cheerful. No matter how one looked at it, it didn't seem like there was a problem. The latter? It seemed even more impossible. Even if there was a problem in Jiangnan, it shouldn't affect the relationship between mother and son. Noble consort Su unconsciously frowned and maintained it for a moment. When she glanced at Jing Wan, she realized that she had exposed some of her emotions and restrained her expression. Sixth sister-in-law, you must have misunderstood. Mother didn't forget or don't care about sixth brother. Sixth brother is a prince and will naturally be blessed by heaven. Moreover, sixth sister-in-law, you should know that sixth brother must be a good person. Mother's care for sixth brother is in her heart, not in her mouth. Consort Lu said with a smile. Third sister-in-law, you're right. Who doesn't know that mother is the best mother? She treats adopted children as her own and treats them better than her own children. Jing Wan chuckled. There was no doubt that noble consort Su was stabbed again. She almost couldn't keep the expression on her face. However, Jing Wan was just telling the truth. If she denied her, wouldn't it be the same as denying herself? However, some words, even if they were the same, would have a completely different meaning in different people and different contexts. For example, now, no matter how one listened to it, it sounded like sarcasm. Consort Lu's face was a little dark. She wanted to help noble consort Su out of trouble, but this was a thankless effort. Since it's dangerous, you should have come back earlier. Why did you stay for so long? Noble consort Su said lightly. Mother, please don't blame me. Prince said that I'm afraid that I won't have a chance to leave the capital in the future, so I take this opportunity to see more and walk around, lest I have regrets in my life. I think father will understand. Would she be inconsiderate if she continued to talk about it? Jing Wan looked at noble consort Su's increasingly uncontrollable expression. Some people just like to think too much. Their imagination would fill in the blanks, and they would be the one who felt frustrated. His Majesty loves Yuan the most. If he really wants to go out for a walk, His Majesty will allow it. Imperial Father's favoritism is not a reason for us, the younger generation, to act recklessly. Your Highness may be a little casual, but you still know the severity of things. After all, these are the rules left by our ancestors. It's not good to break them just for fun. Old Sixth's wife is a sensible person. Noble consort Su looked as calm as before, but there was a strange look in her eyes. Was Luo Shi determined to go against her today? Let's not talk about this for now. You should tell this consort. Although His Majesty has tacitly approved of this large amount of wealth, it's said that a ruler's heart is hard to fathom. This consort has been by His Majesty's side for 30 years, so there's probably no one who understands His Majesty better than this consort. Also, you're all still young and haven't experienced much, so there are many things that you might not consider thoroughly. Tell this consort in detail, and this consort will analyze it with you. If there really is something wrong, then we'll have to make arrangements in advance. Jingwan sneered inwardly. Did they really think that she didn't know anything and was just trying to coax them? After talking for so long, the last 2 sentences were probably her true goal. Mother, you're making things difficult for this daughter-in-law. Prince only told me to accept the gifts because this daughter-in-law was nervous, so Prince told me that father had tacitly approved. As for the extra things, this son really doesn't know. This daughter-in-law is a woman of the inner compound and naturally doesn't dare to ask too much about these national affairs. Also, this daughter-in-law is stupid, but unlike mother, I can't say a thing or two about the national affairs. Noble consort Su was so angry that she almost fainted. She actually said that the inner palace was involved in politics. In private, everyone had a tacit understanding of what they did, but if it was revealed and someone caught it, she wouldn't be able to bear the consequences of the imperial harem's involvement in politics. Lu Wangfei saw this and heard it in her heart, but she didn't want to open her mouth again. This 6th sister-in-law was really too fierce, and her courage was even more incredible. To avoid inviting trouble, it was best to keep silent. As for noble consort Su, it had to be said that in a place like the imperial palace, although her patience wasn't as good as Empress Sun's, it was still top-notch. Good, very good. If we don't talk about the national affairs, then let's talk about some private matters. Lao Lu's wife is right. These things really shouldn't be discussed by us. Let those men deal with it themselves. Noble consort Su picked up the tea that was brought back to her hand and took a sip. Why haven't you served the tea to Jin Qin Wangfei? Tidy up the floor as well. After receiving the order, the aunts and palace maids who were waiting on the side didn't dare to be negligent. They did what they should do quickly. Thank you, Mufei. Jingwan sat down peacefully. Her sitting posture was natural and dignified, and she smiled at noble consort Su. If there was any trick, she would just take it. Noble consort Su's gaze fell on Jingwan's belly. In the past 6 months, you've been by Yuan Er's side. Is there any good news? In the context of the feudal dynasty, children were the big killing weapon. Jingwan lowered her head shyly, but her heart was cold. In this world, the person who was least qualified to talk about her husband's children was this high and mighty woman. Wang Yi said that this daughter-in-law is still young, so there's no need to worry about children. That's true. You can recuperate for 2 more years. However, Yuan is already 23. In 2 years, he will be 25. Most people at this age have several children. Before you went to Jiangnan, you married off a few of Yuan personal maidservants. There definitely won't be enough people to serve him. Why don't you bring a few back from me today? If you like them, you can give them face and let them be Yuan bed warmer first. After they give birth to a child, it won't be too late to promote them to concubines. As for the children of concubines, you don't have to worry too much. They are just the children of a servant. They can't surpass your children in the future. Jingwan raised her head and smiled innocently. So, Mufei means that Prince Rue can never surpass Prince Kong. At this moment, no matter how well-mannered noble consort Su was, she couldn't help but change her expression. At that moment, she looked at Jingwan with poison in her eyes. Princess Lu also looked at her sideways. Her expression was also very unfriendly. Jingwan shrank her neck as if she was frightened. She said with grievance, "The children of a concubine can't surpass the children of the first wife." "Isn't that what you mean, Mufei?" Her eyes were really tit for tat with noble consort Su. "How can you compare them?" Princess Lu said coldly, Mufei means that I can give birth to children. She emphasized the last 3 words. Sister-in-law, do you mean that the children of princes' concubines can surpass my children in the future? I just came back home yesterday, and I heard that the 2 concubines of Prince Rue are full. You have to work hard, Mufei, Jingwan said with a smile. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654023. HTML Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bikugu mobile reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 360. What's wrong with my third sister-in-law? Did I say something wrong? Jingwan continued to provoke her. Noble consort Su and Princess Lu didn't expect that Jingwan was so bold and dared to say anything. They could forgive her for hiding needles in the past, but now she had directly poked their bottom line. But under normal circumstances, there was nothing wrong with what she said. If they dared to argue with her, they would be the ones who would be embarrassed. The Empress would probably be the happiest one, and then she would offend all the other concubines who had sons. Therefore, noble consort Su didn't even dare to pretend to be sick and use filial piety to suppress Jingwan. Speaking of which, the biggest problem with Jingwan's words was that the royal family couldn't be judged based on common sense. Apart from this family, most of the other families, even if they were members of the royal family, would eventually be inherited by the first wife. However, in history, not many emperors were born of the first wife of the empress. However, this was also something that couldn't be ignored. In the historical dynasties, it was basically the rule of the ancestors to choose the legitimate son or the eldest son. Contradictions existed everywhere, and some were just tacitly accepted. Noble consort Su was a good mother-in-law and had never sent anyone to Prince Rue's backyard. Li Hongyuan was an adopted son, so he had to pay more attention to some things. Sometimes, even if he had good intentions, others would say that he had bad intentions. If he hadn't been angered by Jingwan, he wouldn't have made such a stupid move. Even if he had made a stupid move, he wouldn't have directly said that she wanted to warm Li Hongyuan's bed. Everyone knew that this kind of thing had to be tactful. The reason why she was so straightforward was that she had a knack for it. If she really said that she wanted to serve the couple, the person she sent might really be treated as an ordinary maid. How could she achieve her goal in this way? So she simply said it straightforwardly. Besides, Yuan was 23 years old and didn't have any children, and his wife was young. If she sent someone over, they had been married for more than half a year, not 3 months, and no one could criticize her. Even so, Madame Luo still caught the loophole in her words, and it was something that ordinary people did not dare to mention. She directly put the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law into the pit. The 2 of them gritted their teeth in the pit, but she was happy and content at the edge of the pit. Imperial concubine Su had fought with the Empress for 20 to 30 years. Although she had won and lost, she had never felt as sullen as she did today. She watched as the good mother-in-law's face cracked wider and wider. She almost couldn't hold it in anymore. Imperial concubine, esteemed princess consort would prefer someone she is familiar with to serve her. This servant sees that esteemed princess consort has 7 maidservants by her side, so there should be quite a few of them. Moreover, they are all very beautiful. Rather than giving them to His Highness, it would be better for esteemed princess consort to choose 1 or 2 of them as her own. I think esteemed princess consort would be very willing. Even if she gives birth to a child, I believe esteemed princess consort would treat it as her own. An aunt beside imperial concubine Su said with a smile. Look at me, how can I be confused? Thank you for reminding me. Have you brought all these people into the palace today? Let them all come in and let me take a look. I know best what kind of girls Yuan likes. I can take a look at them. Imperial concubine Su smiled lovingly, as if she was sharing the worries and difficulties of her daughter-in-law. Princess Lu also smiled in an instant. That's right. It couldn't be better. I believe sixth sister-in-law will also be satisfied. In reality, it was the most disgusting thing for a female master to allow her personal maidservants to become concubines. This was especially so for a maidservant who was groomed as a confidant and would become her right-hand woman in the future. Noble consort Su had actually gotten someone to do a rough check on the situation of the people around Jingwan. And looking at it now, she was afraid that none of them were prepared for her son. Since they dared to go against her, why should she be polite? Imperial concubine Su didn't even ask for Jingwan's opinion. The imperial maid who waited on the side directly went out and said to the maidservants with a smile. Then, she let them into the hall almost without allowing them to say anything. The reason why they all came to the palace today was that they were going to give gifts to the concubines in the palace. It wasn't a lot, and it was something that could be easily obtained. Naturally, they couldn't pass through other people's hands. Therefore, they brought all 7 maidservants with them, which led to a disaster for no reason. These maidservants were well behaved. Although they were nervous, they basically didn't show it on their faces. They all knelt down to greet Princess Lu. Jingwan had always been generous to the people around her. As long as they didn't violate the rules and weren't specially prepared for her by Li Hongyuan, she would give them a lot of rewards. She raised them well and let them dress up beautifully. Moreover, their colors weren't bad. When they knelt on the ground, they were better than many women from official families. Imperial concubine Su saw it and said, "Sixth daughter-in-law is really extraordinarily nice to the people around her." That was even better. "Mother, you flatter me. They are loyal and considerate to me. It's just some worldly things. I won't be stingy." Even though she knew what Imperial concubine Su was going to do, Jingwan didn't change her expression now. Although she did feel a little uncomfortable in her heart, it didn't affect her much. "I'd like to see how long you can keep calm. Raise your heads and let me have a good look." Hearing this, the 7 maidservants raised their heads, but they all obediently lowered their eyes. Princess Lu clicked her tongue and praised, "Mother, look at them. They are so beautiful. I like them no matter how I look at them. Sixth brother is really lucky with women. He has always been surrounded by beauties. However, they are raised by sixth sister-in-law. It shows that sixth sister-in-law is also a virtuous woman." Imperial concubine Su didn't say anything. She just glanced at Princess Lu. She didn't have any objection to Princess Lu teasing Jingwan. But when it involved her son, who was said to be greedy and lecherous, she naturally wouldn't be happy. Princess Lu's mouth stiffened. She looked away and didn't dare to look at Imperial concubine Su. Hearing this, the 7 maidservants who were kneeling changed their expressions slightly. No matter from the perspective of the princess, the prince, or even their own perspective, they didn't want to serve the prince in bed. They unconsciously clenched their fists, but didn't dare to say or do anything. They were worried that their princess would be confused. Imperial concubine Su's eyes wandered over the 7 maidservants. After a while, she said, "The first one on the left and the second one on the right." Daybreak, on the way back to the capital, had changed her name to Furong. Under normal circumstances, people would probably think that she was Furong. Although not many people knew Daybreak's identity, there might be some people who knew Daybreak's reputation among the officials of Chuanzhou Mansion in Shannon Commandery. It was inevitable that people's imagination would run wild when they had the same name. Jingwan wasn't surprised that they would be chosen. Although Furong was born in the secular world and was now a maidservant, Aunt May spent a lot of effort to teach her. She taught her in the direction of a lady from a noble family. Now she still looked chaste and gentle. Coupled with her stunning appearance, women like her would be particularly popular in brothels. Needless to say, May was extraordinarily beautiful and stunning. "Mother, you have a good taste. But I have never seen this beauty before. Did you take her in Jiangnan? It is said that Jiangnan is full of stunning beauties." "It is true. But I don't know whether sixth brother likes her or sixth sister-in-law is virtuous and specially found her for sixth brother. Princess Lu smiled. Jingwan glanced at her with a faint smile. She didn't say anything, but the meaning of idiot in her eyes was obvious. Princess Lu was angry, but she couldn't say anything more. Jingwan didn't say anything. If she said anything, she would be at a disadvantage. You two should do your best to serve your lord and princess in the future. Sixth daughter-in-law is still young now. If she has a child now, it will be harmful to her health. It can't be better after 2 years. You two should give birth to a child for the Lord as soon as possible. You are all capable people around sixth daughter-in-law. When you give birth to a child in the future, your princess should pay special attention to it. Don't let her down. When the child is born, no matter it is a boy or a girl, I will reward them handsomely. In the future, you and sixth daughter-in-law can go to the palace from time to time. Jingwan looked at imperial concubine Su. It was so obvious that she was trying to sow discord. She also said that she would support them. She told them not to be afraid of their master, Jingwan. She even more or less wanted them to go against her. Jingwan didn't care much about these. What she cared about was that imperial concubine Su kept saying, Yuan-er's child, and give birth to a child for her adopted son. Didn't she feel guilty at all when she said these words? In fact, Jingwan only saw sincerity from her. It seemed that she really wanted to hold her adopted son's child as soon as possible. It had nothing to do with Jingwan. Jingwan felt cold in her heart. How could this woman be so terrible? Old sixth daughter-in-law, tell me, am I right? Imperial concubine Su obviously didn't want Jingwan to be a bystander. It seemed that she wouldn't be satisfied if she didn't see her change her expression. Mother. Imperial concubine Yongyang, please forgive this servant. This servant's body is lowly. Prince is a noble descendant. This servant admits that I don't have the qualifications to serve by his bedside. This servant has sullied Prince's body. Imperial concubine Yongyang, please take back your words. Fu Rong suddenly spoke. It seemed that she was belittling herself, but there was an indescribable determination in her voice. Imperial concubine Su was stabbed by Jingwan until she couldn't speak. Now, even a lowly servant dared to disobey her. For a moment, Imperial concubine Su was unable to restrain her anger. Impudent! She smashed the cup in her hand again. The auntie beside noble consort Su also had a cold and stern expression on her face. She quickly stepped forward and slapped noble consort Su across the face. Lowly servant, how dare you? Her Highness has allowed you to serve His Highness. That's the good fortune you've accumulated over 8 lifetimes. How dare you refuse? If you don't want to live anymore, you can just say it. Fu Rong was slapped so hard that her body tilted. After that aunt finished speaking, she reached out to pull her hair. Jingwan's face turned cold the moment the auntie made a move. She stood up abruptly and grabbed the auntie when she reached out again. The auntie was indignant and instinctively wanted to resist. Jingwan coldly looked at her. What? Does aunt want to fight with this princess? That aunt was a little numb from Jingwan's gaze. She pulled her hand back from Jingwan's and bowed. This servant doesn't dare. It's just that this lowly servant doesn't know what's good for her. Relying on imperial concubine's favor, she's lawless. If we don't teach her a lesson now, who knows what will happen in the future? That's why this servant is so bold. This princess's people, even if they're wrong, this princess will teach them a lesson. You're just a lowly servant, yet you dare to say that you'll take this princess's place? This princess's people are lawless. Aunt, you must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. That aunt's face twitched. If she made a move, she naturally represented Imperial Concubine Su. If Imperial Concubine Su wanted to teach a lesson to her daughter-in-law's people, regardless of whether they were wrong or not, it was natural. However, Jingwan didn't follow the rules. Old Sixth's daughter-in-law, don't lose your dignity. You're a dignified imperial concubine. What kind of scandal is this? She was imperial concubine Su's aunt. If Jingwan didn't personally make a move, no one would dare to make a move. How could Jingwan just watch her people get bullied? This daughter-in-law may not be proper, but imperial concubine mother's manners are very good. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Imperial concubine Su's face darkened. Aunt, making a move is this concubine's idea. Oh. So the people around imperial concubine mother have telepathy with you. You didn't say a single word, but they knew it clearly. This time, it wasn't just one or two mouths that were twitching. Telepathy. These people had to think about every word that was said. In their opinion, it would be strange if Jingwan didn't have any hidden meaning in her words. Could it be that this daughter-in-law said something wrong? Then why don't we change the word, telepathy? Telepathy. Otherwise it would be... That's enough, old Sixth's daughter-in-law. Don't talk nonsense. Imperial concubine Su wanted to strangle Jingwan to death. She used to think that this daughter-in-law was pretty good, especially since the Empress didn't succeed in scheming against her. Isn't that the case? That means that it was Imperial concubine mother's aunt who acted on her own? The people around Imperial concubine mother really have good manners. This time, it was back to square one. Imperial concubine Su's chest heaved up and down. It was obvious that she was very angry. It's this servant's fault. Wang Fei Nyong Nyong, please forgive this servant. It's this lowly servant who doesn't know what's good for her. This servant also watched Wang Ye grow up. In a moment of anger, this servant was impulsive and did the wrong thing, asking Wang Fei Nyong Nyong to forgive. Seeing that the fire was burning on her own master, that aunt simply and decisively admitted her mistake. The excuse she found was also flawless. If you bicker with her, would it mean that you were dissatisfied with her protecting Jin Qinhuang? As Jin Qinhuang Fei, could Jingwan be dissatisfied with this? She couldn't. Fu Rong straightened up and suddenly took off the hairpin on her head. Facing her face, she swiped it from the corner of her eye to the position close to her chin. The wound was long and deep. Her action frightened everyone, including Imperial concubine Su. Fu Rong endured the pain. Blood dripped down and soaked her clothes in an instant, but her eyes were firm and clear. Imperial concubine Nyong Nyong, this servant's face is ugly. I'm afraid that this servant will dirty Wang Ye's eyes and cannot serve Wang Ye. Asking for forgiveness. Which woman wouldn't care about her face? The more beautiful it was, the more they cared. But now, there was such a first-class beauty, a lowly servant, who refused to warm the bed of a Wang Ye and didn't hesitate to disfigure her face. Imperial concubine Su was so angry that she almost vomited blood. She definitely didn't look at the almanac today. After Imperial concubine Su restrained her shocked expression, her heart was filled with monstrous killing intent. Jingwan was also awakened by Fu Rong's words. In a flurry, she pressed the wound on her face with a handkerchief. Imperial concubine Su wanted to kill someone, but now she wanted to kill someone even more. Mama, hurry, hurry. Send Fu Rong back and immediately let Gong Jiu treat her. Such a long and deep wound, it was 100% impossible to recover. A good beauty was ruined just like that. You're also a fool. Jingwan looked at Fu Rong, hating iron for not becoming steel. If she didn't want to, then she didn't want to. When she returned to the Wang Fu and closed the door, whether Li Hongyuan slept or not, it was none of her business. Fu Rong wanted to smile, but it pulled on her wound. Her smile seemed stiff and forced. Wang Ye and Wang Fei are deeply in love. This servant is envious and doesn't want anyone to destroy it. This person especially can't be this servant, even if it's just a little bit. Don't talk about it. Go back and heal first. If she had known this would be the result, Jingwan naturally wouldn't have brought them along. Otherwise, she would have endured Imperial concubine Su and wouldn't have specifically stabbed her. Fu Rong was a clever girl, but at this time, she was stupid and stubborn. Mama Gong naturally listened to her master's words. She didn't even ask Imperial concubine Su for permission and just took them away. Jingwan only left Qingju and sent the others away. They had just stepped out of the door when a maid hurriedly came in from outside. "Nyong, the two Wangye are here." The two were undoubtedly Jin Wangye and Rui Wangye. Imperial concubine Su frowned. How could they be so fast? It didn't even take half a quarter of an hour. Jingwan looked at Imperial concubine Su, then reached out and unhurriedly pulled off the hair ornament on her head and threw it on the ground. Then, she also pulled at her collar. https://www.beacon.com/11/11807/6654028. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.beacon.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website. Beacon.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.